emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to WorldViewHealthCare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. WorldViewHealthCare.com. That's WorldViewHealthCare.com.
The emergency kit available at WorldViewHealthCare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. And good evening. Welcome to our election night coverage here on November 4th, 2025. Glad you guys are with us tonight. We're going to be joined by a large coalition of experts and speakers tonight. We're going to have with us Michael Reagan. Michael Reagan will be with us. Mark Mitchell, the lead pollster at Rasmussen, will join us here. First up tonight, we're going to be joined by Hadia Miramonde. She'll join us. Robert Spencer of jihadwatch.org and more. And of course, joining me tonight as co-host is going to be our very own Anni Cyrus, who has also worked with Logan to produce tonight's broadcast. Glad you are with us. Hope you will tweet, text, email, Facebook, get her Truth Social. Let everybody know we are on. And we're going to be covering the big elections tonight in Virginia, New Jersey, and of course, the one everyone's watching, New York City. Apparently, they are on the verge of electing a Marxist and an Islamist. I think we even have the race for mayor in Minneapolis to cover tonight, because I think that guy is also a Marxist and a Muslim as well. So we have a lot to get to tonight. We're going to ask Anni Cyrus to join us in just one moment, but due to the fact he has a pressing schedule tonight, we're going to go right away first to none other than Mark Mitchell, lead pollster of Rasmussen. Mark, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah, really great to be here.
Great to have you with us.
No surprises. No surprises at all.
Really? No surprises at all. So they've already called the race for governor of Virginia, correct?
Yeah. Spanberg's blown it out of the water. And I just saw Decision Desk actually called New Jersey as well. I'm trying to get the results now. But I mean, it's, 25-30% of the vote reporting, but people are using statistical models and comparing it to past turnouts. Again, neither of those candidates, the Republican candidates, were at any point in time up in any poll that was published through Real Clear Politics. And so the only chance they had was some kind of turnout surprise where even more independents turned up for Republicans, or where, they got a Republican presidential election style turnout, but the Democrats didn't. And the truth is that the Democrats just want to own Trump. They want to own Republicans, and they turned out to vote right now. And I don't really think that the Republican Party gave voters a reason to convert from a Trump voter to a Republican voter. I think that's just the reality. And so the big surprise is, look, there are two blue states. And people could say they were purplish because of 2024, but I mean, it doesn't look that way. And so hopefully this is a wake-up call for the Republican Party, who really loves cope. They really like to, pat themselves on the back for a job well done. But I think we can look at 2025 and say, well, D-. That's where we're at.
D-. Now, do you think the issue, what is your polling showing? Is it really more about the economy? It's the economy, stupid. Isn't that what George Carvel said back in George H. Bush day? It's the economy. Is it the economy, or is it more than that? James Carville. Well, James Carville said that.
Yeah.
It was the economy. Is that what's going on right now or not?
I mean, yes and no. The one word answer is the economy, and then there's 5,000 words. You know what I mean? And it's all of this stuff that we all look around and know about our situation. Society's fraying, everything's falling apart, but just economically, wages have stagnated for 20 years. We've offshored every job. The housing crisis is ridiculous. The price of groceries is through the roof. And most pollsters will try and paint a broad brush and say, yeah, economy is the number one issue. Or then they'll say, okay, well, yeah, rising prices is the number one part of the economy. And then so the Trump administration will try and bring down the price of eggs, and they'll have Bessent go out there and talk about how great it is that we've clamped down on inflation. But that doesn't fix the fact that it's still $400 to go to ShopRite and get groceries. And so, no, the problem has not been fixed, and nothing that Trump is doing, in my opinion, is going to be enough to really fix that problem. Well, what does it take? Probably complete economic upheaval, probably brutal pursuit of monopolies, probably unbelievable amounts of protectionism that make what we've seen already pale in comparison. And unfortunately, it's all going to get shut down by judges. And have the judges done anything? No. How about canceling all visas? How about tripling the size of ICE? Like, it's just not enough. And I knew the window was going to be small. And I think basically what I'm hearing out of the White House is that they agree that they wish to have gotten more stuff done by now. But we've seen, again, this was a referendum on the collapse of the American dream, about institutional trust, and about the way things work in Washington, D.C. One of the questions we asked in the fall was, do we need massive change, or do we need more just business as usual in Washington, D.C.? And this is like an electorate that was, they voted Biden in. A lot of people liked Biden. But 75% said they wanted massive change in D.C. Only 20% said business as usual. And that was with Joe Biden in office. And so it's like, I look at what the Republicans are doing. I don't see massive change. I just don't. Government shutdown. It's a day from being the longest shutdown in American history, maybe 2 days. They're not doing anything. They're just like, voting in the Senate over and over again. Democrats, they got their government shutdown to jazz everybody up for elections. It's like, what's the game plan here? I have yet to see any inclination that the Republicans are working as a unified force and have any kind of strategy, period, whatsoever. And you could go and probably talk to Mike Johnson, and he'll give you a good game about how it's so hard and there's so many limitations. Well, we're literally talking about how Gen Z and a lot of millennials are becoming neo-Nazis because the system has failed them so much. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where we're at right now. I'm in the field this week. I'm going to go into the field with questions about whether we need a Caesar or not. And I think I'm going to get a lot of people who say yes. Let's not forget the point that the temperature got so hot in this country that 43% thought that a civil war or revolution was going to be likely in the next 3 to 5 years. So I don't have any other answer for Republican Party than you guys suck. You failed. You're not giving what you promised to America, because it's not just they hitched their wagon to Donald Trump. They actually voiced full-throated support for the MAGA agenda. And what are they doing now? They're trying to undermine it. Like, as we're sitting here speaking, the established and old guard Republican Party in Washington, D.C. is literally trying to undermine the MAGA movement. They want to bring it back to the way it was. They'll never win another election. But, at least they'll still get the donor dollars, I guess. That's the game.
Mm. And the social issues. Here we have the gal that is now, I guess, going to be the governor of New Jersey, Mickey Sherrill?
Yeah, Mikey Sherrill.
Or Mikey, is that how you say it? It's a girl's name? Mm-hmm. What's that, Logan? Is my computer on a black screen? It wasn't probably plugged in, but it is now, I think. Let me know if you get it. But we have a clip from her. There we go. Here's a clip from her. Did any of these social issues come up in the race there in New Jersey? Listen to the gubernatorial candidate who is now declared the winner in New Jersey. Listen to this.
Should parents have the right to opt their kids out of LGBTQ-related content in the same way that right now they can be removed from sex ed and health curriculum classes?
Look, I believe that parents have the right to oversee their children's education. I would push an LGBTQ education into our schools. Parents have a right to opt out of a lot of things, but this is not an area where they should be opting out, because this is an area of understanding the background of people throughout our nation. And right now we see, for example, at the Naval Academy, an erasure of history.
Wow. No opt-out for parents on LGBTQ. So if we're going to have, which is some of these schools, like the book, It's Perfectly Normal, which is like for 10-year-olds, if you were to show that illustrated book on television on a terrestrial station, you could be charged with obscenity. But we give it, there was actually a prison, it's in my documentary, Brainwashed America, there was a prison that wouldn't allow that colorized or illustrated book to come into the prison because it was considered obscenity. But we can give it to 10-year-olds. And if you were to show it on a typical terrestrial TV station, you could be charged. And yet, this woman who's going to be the governor of Jersey says, no, parents should not be allowed to opt out their children. We should be allowed to teach them all about gay sex and sodomy and grooming children. None of this comes up. I mean, it's only about the money. It's only about the economy.
I don't know what to tell you. There's a holy war in America, and the two religions are liberalism and Christianity. That's the holy war. And unfortunately, Christianity is like sitting on the sidelines. It's not even fighting, in my opinion. And it's like, okay, God is good. He's going to win. Jesus is going to win in the end. But I look around, and it's like we don't live in a culturally Christian nation anymore. And it's by design. We all know that, right? But those people go to church. There are a lot of Christians that go to the church and they will sit there and listen to the sermon, and then they'll walk out of there with a radical left worldview. It's just what they do.
Your surveys and polls are showing that people who routinely go to church and call themselves a Christian are pro-abortion, right?
Yeah, 100%. So we polled 2 years ago on John 3:16. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God who came to earth to save your sins? Right? Okay. 72% yes, 17% no. That's not bad. You say, wow, that's a pretty strong result. 65% of America still says they're Christian. 64% said they were at least somewhat religious, but only I think it was like 40% said very religious. So that number is dropping for sure. But then it's like, okay, well, a lot of these people say they're Christian, actually go to church. The people that say they're Protestant go to church just as much as evangelicals. The Democrats say they go to church just as much as the Republican Christians. But then we ask them, okay, well, do you think the church should be more involved or less involved in politics? And the people who say more involved are pro-life by 30 points. The people who say less involved are pro-choice by 40 points. So the people who say they want their church less involved in politics is because they have a whole nother worldview that they don't want their church interfering with, which is basically, liberalism. And so overwhelmingly in the country, people are against, like, for instance, we've done polls on having all of those gay books in schools, and parents are like, no, that's not cool. It's like, 65 to 35, right? They don't like this stuff at all. But, the Democrats, their religion tells them to do it. The religion of liberalism. And the religion is get Trump. It's resist Trump at all costs. And that's how you get people in New Jersey, again, very, very comfortable, like a lot of big corporations in New Jersey. And I know they have income taxes. It's a huge problem. Didn't affect how they voted at all. And, you look at Jack Ciattarelli, like he seemed like an okay candidate. But what's the Republican answer for New Jersey? Like, what are they really going to, at the end of the day, be able to do? And it's like not being sane isn't a good enough answer to convince insane people to vote for Democrats.
What does this tell you for 1 year from tonight, midterm elections 2026, which, by the way, was it today? President Trump said, look, if the GOP doesn't get their act together, we will rightfully and hugely lose the midterms and 2028. So right now, if you had to guess, midterms a year from now, it's a political lifetime from now. But what do you see a year from tonight?
Well, hopefully this will wake the Republican Party up and they'll absolutely finally do something. But I mean, just looking at past performance as a prediction of future, it's not going to happen, right? And right now, the Democrats are leading in the generic ballot, but not as much as they could. It's going to be really close. And quite frankly, I think it's going to come down to a gerrymandering fight. And if the Republicans keep the majority in the House, it'll be a really slim majority, which means nothing will still happen. At least it'll keep Donald Trump from getting impeached. So there is that. And then the Senate's a complete toss-up because it's like you can pull these races, but the Democrats We're going to throw billions of dollars at those races. They're going to have like this unified electioneering machine that's just, quite frankly, better than Republicans. You know, the only thing the Republicans were really doing in New Jersey, I don't think the Republican Party in New Jersey like really even knows how to win that state. And everybody was super happy that Scott Presler showed up. But it's like, Scott Presler is great. But if you think that that's the right solution for your party, then you're not very smart. Like, that is not adequate. Like, a well-honed, well-funded machine that knows what it stands for, knows how to find the people, knows how to get them to the polls. Like, they don't have that. And it's like, would that have been enough to win New Jersey? I don't know, but they don't have one. That kind of sucks. Like, they should fix that.
How much of this do you blame on the Congress, the Republican Congress, How much of it do you blame on Republican governors and the state Republican legislators? And how much of it do you blame on President Trump?
Boy, I don't know how to put, I mean, like numerically 20 or 30% on Trump, and then like the rest on the Republican establishment, which I don't know if you could blame on any one individual lawmaker. I think in general, they're mostly pretty principled people, but they're just completely outclassed. Like they don't have a support infrastructure. They're overwhelmed with information that they're receiving from lobbyists and K Street. And, you know, the Democrats have like a very unified, like central nervous system.
Are you
in a
trying
way
to say that the
Republicans
GOP doesn't have any core values that they can coalesce around, but the Democrats do, which is Marxism, socialism, open borders, bring all the red-green axis, the Marxist-Islamist?
Yeah, 100%.
But the GOP can't even coalesce around a few key basic principles like lower taxes, less government.
No, yeah.
You know,
I don't even know if those are. They don't even know if those are the right values anmoore. Like I don't know if you can run on
Even though
low.
the polls show the American people don't want this border open, and President Trump has done a good job at stopping that flow. But the Republicans in the House and the Senate, you're saying they're not even convinced that's the right idea. A lot of them.
Well, I mean, let's just put it this way. If the Democrats hadn't flooded the country with illegal aliens, I don't know if Trump would have won in 2024. He was like handed a very, very easy thing to run on. But people are souring on capitalism, and it really doesn't have. You can't blame that all on the Democrats. Republican capitalism has failed. This idea of like
Republican capitalism versus real capitalism. Republican capitalism, corporatism, big government, big business merging together. Palantir in the White House. Yeah. You know, all these tech bros in the White House. And this is not just limited, obviously, to President Trump. This has gone on with George W., George H., all the rest of them.
Yeah, so, I don't think it's the tech bros. I think it's like your Club for Growth, Chamber of Commerce, the Koch brothers, like Ken Griffin, the people who have just been the big donors for the Republican Party. And again, I'm not calling them all evil people, but it's like when they spend money, they have interests, and the politicians listen to them. And yes, the senators, the congressmen have a lot of corporate backers. They have a lot of like foreign influence. They have a lot of lobbyists. And that's where I think they get a lot of their information. And so I think most Republicans probably spend all day trying to figure out how to not get raked over the coals in the news and get through the day and push on a boulder. They're all pushing in different directions. And it's like herding cats every time there's a vote.
And you would think they could get behind things like, hey, let's do something for all the people we forced this bioweapon shot onto that killed, you know, probably several 100,000 people here in the U.S., injured who knows how many. Let's just say, hey, the government, our federal government pushed a bio shot on people. No, we can't even agree on that. Final question. I mean,
I think that's in the rearview mirror, 100%. Yes. That's completely off the table. Pharma is not going to allow that, and they say we can't stand the economic upheaval, and this will ruin people's health if we get held accountable for murder. Like, I mean, it's not going to happen.
How about
there's no chance?
In closing, the epitome of the GOP neocon establishment would be, of course, Dick Cheney, and how ironic he died today on Election Day. I mean, this guy was part of the military-industrial complex, a lot would say, and got us into a lot of wars. I have to 100%. Wonder if President Trump isn't going to be marched down the lane to some wars, because, again, it benefits the military-industrial complex. Some of it, I have to wonder, is he trying to fight off China and Russia and Iran that's literally in our backyard in Venezuela, which is a real problem, particularly if they've got missiles directed our way, which we've been warning about, and former Admiral Ace Lyons warned about for years. So, you know, in one sense, wait a minute, I am all concerned about that. You know, we've been talking about it here on our network, and it's proven on our website since 2010. We've been talking about that. Yeah. But I'm concerned about being dragged into other foreign wars by big tech, too, not just the military-industrial complex, but is big tech going to help out? Are they going to be helping to win some of the wars and on the battlefield with facial recognition and so many other things? Is he going to end up going down this road before his term is over?
This is a really, really tough one, because there are so many forces. First off, I think we are in a proxy war with China in Venezuela. A little bit, compared to Russia, it might not be as big, but we're basically still fighting a two-front proxy war. And we have a head of NATO who tells us that we need to be preparing for total global war against Russia and China. We know that China has been preparing for war. And also, I think there's an aspect of Venezuela that we'll find out is related to election rigging that was potentially perpetrated by China. And so who the heck knows where that goes? But I'm just saying, like, one of the things you can look at, we've talked about the fourth turning, and I think Israel's a good example, not the only one, but a good example of where the fourth turning is really going, because the young voters differ so greatly from the old voters on their position on this particular issue. And you're seeing it play out right now when you have Nick Fuentes and Mark Levin literally ripping each other's face off. And the young people do not like the old values. They think that they've been failed on this. And so there's going to be a handoff from old leadership to new leadership where the new generation reasserts themselves. And I think really anything's on the table. I have no idea where it's going to go. It's probably not going to be too Christian because these people were left with a society that is dechurched. And it's going to be things like, I think they're going to start turning on NATO and what happens then. I don't think they like war, but the problem is that the war is a very convenient way for the old guard to stay in power. It just is, send the young kids off to fight in Eurasia, and maybe you'll get to, as a bonus, wipe the debt slate clean, 120% debt to GDP ratio. History tells us usually when governments get that much debt, then they use war as an escape hatch. And, we're like a couple of false flags away from a shooting war with Russia. And I think you could look at all of the Republican politicians and say that they would probably overwhelmingly personally profit from that kind of situation. And then, I think it gets messy here. Because I look at the Zoomers, and the Zoomers, according to the fourth turning, are the artist generation. Sounds super nice, but those were the ones that got fed into the wood chipper in the European theater. You know what I mean? Like, those were the people getting dysentery island hopping down in the South Pacific. So they're still, I don't know if they're going to line up and get sent overseas to fight a war for Lindsey Graham.
No,
I think there's going to be anger and hatred. And
I think that alone would bring a civil war. I don't see moms and dads packing their kids up to go and die in a foreign war. We haven't been winning wars for decades now. There's no way my kids are going. Over my dead body does any of my kids go to war. No. Mark or Mitchell, lead pollster Rasmussen. And again, give your handle. It's at Honest Pollster on Twitter, right? At Honest Pollster.
At Honest Pollster. The main account's Rasmussen_poll. We have a YouTube channel at Rasmussen_poll. And later we'll be streaming on the channel with Roger Stone, Nick DiGiordano, and John Fawcett of the Great America Show. So it should be good stuff. Going to react to the Republicans getting their butt handed to them tonight.
Yep, and deservedly so. Excellent reporting as always, Mark. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you, Brandon.
Mark Mitchell checking in he's the lead pollster at Rasmussen. He was just at our national conference here in Collierville, the 1st of October. All those keynote addresses are in the vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. Let's bring in Anni Cyrus. I am getting a text right now from Hadia Miramandi, and she's going to be with us in a little bit. And I'm being told by her that the lieutenant governor of Virginia is now the first Muslim winning statewide office. Annie, thanks for sitting in with us tonight. And you want to respond to this before we go to Michael Reagan at the top of the hour?
Of course, yes. Well, it's projected to be the winner, but numbers look like she will take the crown. Sorry.
First Muslim to be winning a statewide office.
She's I'm going to say exactly what she says about herself. The first Muslim Asian woman. And yes, she's been in office before. Her record, she's Indian born, immigrated to America when she was 4 years old with her parents, active Muslim parents as well. She is very proud of her faith of Islam. Her record as early as 2021, you can find her name as a speaker at Free Palestine rallies. She has been publicly and openly against many of pro-Israeli legislations, helps discussions. Don't let her very cute face fool you. She's publicly pro-Hamas, which is pro-Palestine, anti-Israeli, anti-Semite. Some Israeli reports and magazines have covered some of her anti-Semite comments agenda. And yes, looks like, as of right now, that she's going to take the position as the first Muslim Asian woman to be the lieutenant governor of Virginia. And I have a strong feeling she's going to be the first out of my possible 5 winners, Muslim winners of tonight.
First of 5.
Yeah, we have 8 of them running tonight, but I have a very strong feeling 5 of them are going to win. And I think she'd be the first one for us to announce.
New York would be one of them, obviously.
Minneapolis, Fatah will be the other one. And there is a 21-year-old guy in Georgia running for a special election that I have a very strong feeling he's going to win as well. And then there are 2 city councils in 2 major cities in Georgia as well that I think they're going to win as well.
And is this going to be the big story going into 2026, all the Muslims winning? Or is the GOP going to keep taking all the Islamic money, the Qatari money, the Saudi money, the UAE money, and just act like this doesn't even exist? Because when they came to Mamdani, all we ever heard of, he's a Marxist. Many of the GOP people didn't want to ever mention he's a Islamist. He's a Muslim jihadist, in my opinion. At least he's certainly hangs out with them, like Siraj Wahhaj, an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center that was campaigning for him.
And he's more dangerous. Remember, I mentioned it on your program a few times. He's a 12er or Shia Muslim. His allies are Islamic Republic of Iran type of Muslims. That makes him much more dangerous. However, I know President Trump has been saying some stuff today, like if they elect him, he's going to cut funding, whatever. But again, emphasizes on his socialist side. I think they will celebrate, meaning GOP will join the celebration of diversity, minorities, Muslims going into office, because they're part of it now. They are. I on my platforms for your coverage tonight, I actually named it the Green Wave Rising. That's what we're facing tonight, a green wave coming. You look at the number of how many elections are taking place and the result, you see the green wave. And the bigger wave is going to hit us on midterm with the help of Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, rhinos, socialists, all of them.
Here is the lieutenant governor, projected winner in Virginia, speaking at a rally. Oh, notice the banner. He has named you Muslims. Here she is speaking with her hijab on. Of course, that's part of Sharia or Islamic law.
Alaikum. Peace be upon you all. I'm so delighted to be back with you at this year's Jalsa Salana. I had the privilege of joining you last year, and it left a lasting impression on me, one of the unique spirituality, community service, and love of humanity. Today marks a special occasion, as we know, the 75th diamond anniversary of the Jalsa Salana here in the United States, and what an incredible milestone. You know, this...
And by the way, isn't this so ironic tonight, folks? Are you ready to have your breath taken away? All of this happening tonight, Muslims winning across the country tonight. 5 projected are going to win tonight, according to Annie, who's been following those that are running. One of them is probably going to end up being the mayor of the largest city in America, New York City. And yet, November 4th, what was it? What year, Annie?
1979.
Yes.
46 years ago today.
Iran took the hostages out of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. And would we have ever thought, watching all that on television, I don't know how many were born then, but I was old enough, 10 years old, to know we're living in Washington, D.C., and I was very aware of what was going on. I watched the news as a 10-year-old. I actually, even at 10, liked watching some of the guys, Frank Reynolds and others, and thought, and by the way, Ted Koppel in Nightline was born out of that. That's how he started coming on the every night. And there were times even then I thought it'd be a fun job to be a anchor man. And well, here we are. Well, so many years ago that night, I remember that. I remember the footage of our hostages tied up, scarves around, blindfolded. Thank you. And would we have thought then, if we told Americans in November of 2025, we will be seeing Americans elect Muslims backed by Iran elected all over the U.S.? People would say you're crazy. How much would they have said that after 2001, September 11, 2001, that the very same city where you had a terrorist attack, you're going to elect an Islamist who's campaigning with an imam who is an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center in 93. Again, people have said, you're crazy, but here we are tonight.
Very correct. Yes, when I was working on my Substack for today, which is titled From 1979 to Trump 47, How We Fed the Monsters, I was thinking every step of that day, there was no reaction. That year, there was no reaction. Next year, there was arms deals. And then there was reaching hands. And then there was billions of dollars. And there was lifting sanctions and more and more. If you think about it, sometimes when I post things on behalf, translating what Supreme Leader of Iran said, people come to my comment, what makes Iran think they can dictate to us what to do? I don't know, 46 years of getting away with what they did could possibly give them the impression they can tell us what to do.
Hold right there. That's going to be, that's all at liveuptofreedom.substack.com, by the way. Her article, we'll bring it back up later tonight, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Annie's going to be my co-host with me throughout the night as we bring in all kinds of hosts, as our guests. As you know, we've already had Mark Mitchell, the lead pollster at Rasmussen. We're joined right now on the phone by my good friend of many years who gave me my start in talk radio professionally in 1995, Michael Reagan. Michael joins us tonight. Michael, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Good to be with you.
Michael, let's talk about the election results tonight. It looks like the Democrats might have several wins. We're already having called the governor of New Jersey. We just had called the lieutenant governor of Virginia. It looks like they're going to win some big elections tonight. What do you think the issue is? Is it the economy? Is it the GOP couldn't unite around a set of core objectives? What do you think the issue is? Is it, or is it just Trump derangement syndrome?
Well, remember, these are all blue states. Yeah, so they've just gone back to what they were. Nothing's really changed. Trump isn't on the ballot as far as running at the top of the ticket, but he's on the ballot to an extent. And when you take all the media, with the Trump derangement syndrome, hating him and hating him and hating him, that works on people. And I think about my father in this way. Back in 1981, when he was elected, gave us the largest tax break in American history, rolled back a lot of things, and the midterms kicked his butt because none of his programs had time to really take effect. Remember, Trump just passed the big, beautiful bill. It doesn't go into effect till later. It's not in effect now. And so people aren't feeling now what they think they want to feel. What happens is we want change until we get change. And then we go, oh, my God, it didn't happen quick enough. And you got to wait another year before it really starts to, in fact, kick in. And I think you're going to see the elections in 28 a lot different than what you're seeing now in the midterms coming up in 26, because nothing that Trump has passed has had time to take effect at this point in time, just like my father back in 1981. But the problem is conservatives don't get that message out. We get on our back foot also, and conservatives on their back foot because they can't explain things to people, and they do what they do. Like right now, explaining to you what the issue is, because I get it and I understand it. Unfortunately, nobody's selling it and telling it.
So you believe a lot of this will come down next year, a year from tonight, to the economy?
Yeah, always until 28 into the economy. The 26 is going to be absolutely tough, but you got to put in some good candidates in there. but you're not. The blue states are, in fact, the blue states. We'll probably take a bloodbath in 26, but that's really terrible because all the things Trump's trying to put in place can be unwound by a Democrat Congress. You got people now. The country no longer is talking politics; they're talking hate. It's all about hate. And that's really, really unfortunate because it wasn't that way with my father back in the 1980s and what have you. But it is today. You have family members not talking to each other simply because you supported Trump or you didn't support Trump. And it's become really, Democrats become a party of absolute hate. And when you have a media that's there in the same ballpark as they are, it makes it very tough. You really have to come up with some good candidates and a good message out there. I know Republicans are hoping that, with the Mamdani win, they'll have a message to really sell. You can't go with socialism. As you know, I wrote an op-ed piece on that this week. But again, somebody said to me, well, that you took the low-hanging fruit. I said, no, but in every one of my op-ed pieces, if you read it, you're going to learn something you never knew before. And so people listening to you right now, how many of you know there's 85,000 members of the Socialist Democrat Party? How many of you know? How many know Mamdani is actually a dues-paying member of the Socialist Democrat Party? How many of you know there are 250 people who have been elected to low-level positions of leadership throughout the country who are members of the Socialist Democrat Party? You never hear that in the news. You don't hear Republicans talk about it. They only talk about Mamdani, but they don't give you a history lesson on all this. And how many of you knew, if you study history, back in 1956, Khrushchev said, we will bury you. And he was talking about communism and socialism burying capitalism and America. 70 years later, today, New York is voting in support of what Khrushchev said back in 1956.
And let's switch to the issue of Islamic candidates. Looks like we have our first Muslim elected to a statewide office, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia tonight. We'll see what happens with Mamdani. We have the Marxist-Islamist candidate for mayor in Minneapolis. And yet here we were talking about the fact that here we were. You remember it. It was your dad was running for president. And November 4th, 46 years ago, the taking of our embassy in Tehran and our embassy representatives as hostages. And then, of course, we have 9/11. And yet we have people running that are campaigning with people like Siraj Wahhaj, the mayoral candidate Mamdani in New York. Siraj Wahhaj, an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center, a man that has called for jihad with a knife if necessary, whose son, I believe, is the one that was found guilty of training young jihadis in the desert of the Southwest. I mean, the transformation you have seen on this topic alone, not to mention the Marxism, the socialism that you just brought up, but now add in the other part of this axis, the Islam side of it. Boy, you have been on the front row to watch this and to think that 46 years ago tonight, America got a really good introduction into Islam and Iran, and yet we have candidates that are being backed by Qatar and Iran and others. How do you explain all this to the American people? What are your concerns?
Take Minneapolis. Don't they run 5 times a day, the prayer runs about?
Yes.
I mean, this is what's good. We have this open door, come on in and what have you. Look what's happening in Europe. I mean, like I said to somebody the other day, what's happened there in England and in Europe. You just watch and you can just see what's happening in the United States of America. It is really sad to sit there and watch and say, gosh, what's going to happen to the next generation? Like my son Cameron said to me this morning, communism. You voted in, but you have to shoot your way out.
Yep.
And it's absolutely true. Wherever communism, wherever socialism, where all this took place, how do people get out of it? And we know how people get out of it. But again, we open the doors and we allow these things to happen. Pretty soon, Sharia law, and you and I have talked about Sharia law forever
Yep.
on radio.
Yep.
Now, people laughed at us.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, never going to happen. Huh? Really?
Talk to me
It
about,
happens very slowly.
tell me about your thoughts on the mainstreaming by people of Nick Fuentes, who's praising Stalin, praising Hitler, saying things about minorities, particularly black people, that is just disgusting. The things this guy is saying about the Jews, and yet, you know, I don't have a problem if someone debates him. And I'm not into cancel culture. I think we get in the arena of ideas. So I have no problem with someone debating him. But if you're going to platform a guy like this and not just debate him, but give him a softball interview, I mean, this is not a good look. And I think this is dividing the MAGA movement.
But Brandon,
is it not?
It all happens. The bottom line is, I hate Trump so much, I am willing to turn this country over to these people. That's how much I hate Trump. And that's what they're doing. I hate Trump so much, I'm willing to turn the country over to these people, because these people, to me, are better than the man that I hate, Donald Trump. And you sit there and say, well, excuse me, what has he done? What has he done that you hate? I mean, the man has a press conference every day. You're able to ask questions. He answers all the questions. What is it you're angry about? And what happens is we open the doors to America for 4 years. Millions of people come in, and then we get angry because you're trying to kick them out. Why are you trying to kick these people out? They're really nice people. Oh, really? And you go through this, and it's sad to sit and watch this next generation. I look at Cameron, I look at Ashley, I look at their kids, you know, the two girls and Cameron's little boy, Gage, and Ashley's new child. And I look at this and I say, what's going to happen? What's happening to America? And one of the issues is also, because we don't study history, you study history, is the generation that's out there. The kids voting tonight in New York in Mamdani, the young people coming out, never saw freedom, really. They never saw it the way it should be. Never lived in those years where we had Ronald Reagan. We had the people. I tell this story a lot, and I said this to somebody the other day, left winger, and I said, you know, the movie Reagan, one of the most poignant parts of that movie, and it truly happened. My dad shot, and I think it was the first morning when he wakes up in the hospital. Could have been the afternoon. Wakes up in the hospital. Tip O'Neill is sitting in the chair in my dad's hospital room with a rosary, praying for my father. And they prayed together. And you think to yourself, would that ever happen today? And unfortunately, the answer, no, it wouldn't happen today, because there's so much hate.
There is an awful lot of hate, a lot of dehumanizing. And I know that you've spent a lot of time in the Middle East and tours and to Israel. And speak to the young people in both parties or no parties. The polls show that a lot of them have no problem with socialism. A lot of them are now openly picking up on anti-Semitism. And as I said a while ago, I think some of this is going to be used to divide the America First coalition, which maybe that's the objective. When I look at Islam is what, 24% of the world population. Jews are 0.02%. And we're told that they're the ones running the world. It seems like a good distraction to me.
You and I have been in radio a long time.
Yep.
Okay. I was dealing with these issues back when I started in radio in the 1980s. Well, the Jews own all the radio stations.
Yep.
They're controlling everything that's being said. That has been said and been going on forever. That's just one. It's like saying, you know, conservatives are racist. I mean, it's what they pull out of their back pocket every time, you know, something's going on. Jews own everything, and conservatives are all racist, and they just keep on playing that same tune, and the media keeps on playing the same tune, and nobody ever says, "Wait a minute, that's just not true." You know, nobody says it's not true. They just what happens? How many people actually knew that Joe Biden was basically infirmed for 4 years? Only the people who watch Fox or listen to conservative radio or people like you. If you watch CNN, I have a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, best friend of mine, who hates Trump. hates Trump. And I can sit there and send him a story. If I send it from Fox, he discounts it. It's not just from Fox, discounted. So now I go to Perplexity or what have you, and I find the story in another venue, and I send him the story from another venue. It's, well, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know about that. Well, I said, because you watch CNN and MSNBC, and you discount Fox. And that you have so much in the country that is the very same way. Oh, I hate Fox, so I just discount everything they say. So I find, as I said, Perplexity or Elon Musk's operation. I find other sources to tell the story. And that's what I've had to do with my friend Bob, who basically lives in shock every week because I send him stuff from places that he's in shock. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah, right, Bob. You know, if Fox would have said the Dodgers won the World Series, he wouldn't have believed it.
Michael, before we let you go, how do we, what is you're a father, you're a grandfather. What is your recommendation tonight to folks that are listening? How can we respond to this? What do we need to be doing as parents, as grandparents, as citizens? What would
I'll tell you what I tell the kids when I speak at Young America's Foundation at my dad's ranch center in Santa Barbara. Just spoke to 132 of them the other night. I say, readers are leaders. Every leader you'll ever hear about are readers. You're a reader. I'm a reader. We don't go into that little tiny thing that we take off our hip or whatever and find stories there. We actually read stories. Know what you believe and know why you believe it. Mm. And I was saying this the other day with these kids. I said, I know people who did that. Pope John Paul, my father, you know, Erica and Charlie. They were readers. They knew what they believed and they knew why they believed it. That's why they could sit up and debate issues, because the people throwing questions at them don't read anything. They look at their phone. That's what they do. They go to Facebook. They go to wherever they might go instead of really reading and learning. Know what to believe and know why you believe it. Then, when you're saying debating people, you can give them facts like the facts I gave you tonight. I mean, how many people knew that 250 members of the Socialist Democrat Party have been elected to lower level offices in the United States of America? The media doesn't tell you that, but it's true.
Excellent advice. You're singing our song, Know What You Believe and Why You Believe It. That's worldview stuff. We love that. Look at this. This is his page for his X account, at Reagan World, if you want to follow him on X. He puts out a column every week, and he puts it right there at Reagan World, so you can find it very easily every week when he pops it up there, along with all the other stuff he's putting up there. Then he has the ReaganLegacyFoundation.org if you want to help support that financially, helping to carry on the ideals, the values, the worldview of his father. And he's written many books about his dad, what his dad taught him. And you'll find out about it as he carries on that Reagan legacy at ReaganLegacyFoundation.org. Again, a great organization to support. You just heard he's out speaking the other night to 132 young people. ReaganLegacyFoundation.org. And Michael, all I can say is thanks, as always, for making time for us. I know you're in demand tonight on election night. Thanks for being with us, and greet.
Give my best to your family and your dog.
I will, and tell Colleen and Cameron and your whole family. We
have Stetson now. 6 months ago we had Stetson.
Wow! And of course, your
little boy Stetson.
And the little boys. You got the little boy's name. Tell the quick story about the little boy's name.
Well, his brothers. Ashley married a police officer who knew for 30-some years. Married him a couple of years ago, and he had 3 children from there, and he's got 10-year-old and 28-year-olds, and you got Colt, Walker, and Duke, and they needed hats. So and now you have Stetson.
And and you got a little boy named Gage, right? Little grandson?
Gage. You're talking about Gage, my other grandson, who I nicknamed 12.
That's the story right there. You call him 12.
Yeah.
There you go. At Reagan World.
We're all covered. There's a pattern here.
There is a pattern. There is absolutely a pattern. Michael, thanks again for making time for us.
You got take time, bro.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Michael. Michael Reagan checking in tonight at Reagan World on X. Check out his weekly column, ReaganLegacyFoundation.org. And again, he gave me my start in talk radio. I was his education reporter. And in 1995, he said, you want to sit in for me? And I went to Chicago and plugged into an affiliate there. And sure enough, that's how the network I'm on now and been with for 30 years heard me. The president and founder of that network out of Milwaukee, BCY America, Vic Eliason, called me on my cell phone, said, I heard you hosting the Michael Reagan show the other night. Got your phone number from another Christian radio network owner out of Kansas City, Dick Bott, who I just was texting with the other day, who's 92. He said, Dick, give me your phone number. I called him up and said, you know this Brannon Howse guy? I'm hearing him on Michael Reagan's show. He said, yes, I just had breakfast with he and his wife. And he gave him my cell phone number. He called me and said, I heard you on the Reagan show. I want to have you on my show. And that eventually led to my co-hosting or guest hosting for him, and eventually my own program with that network that I'm still with and working with today, 30 years later. But it all got kicked off by Michael Reagan having me sit in as a guest host. Did that several times. I have a letter in my office that's framed from Michael from 1995 thanking me for being a guest host. And I have it framed and in my office. So we owe a lot to what Michael Reagan has done for me over the years, including letting me be his literary agent on his book, Twice Adopted, which you guys should all read. All right, Annie, let's bring Annie back in here. Annie, our next guest, I think this is the first time he's been with us. You want to introduce him for us?
It's
Robert Spencer.
Robert Spencer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's been with us.
No,
plenty.
he's been with it a million times. I'm thinking of the guy that's later tonight.
Yes, you're thinking Mike
yeah,
Pierce. He's an hour from now.
Okay, an hour. Thank you for setting me straight. All right, let's bring in our friend Robert Spencer, who I think is under the weather tonight. So he's being very kind to even give us time tonight. Robert, we are getting word that we now have the first statewide elected Muslim in America, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. You want to respond to this? And Annie is saying probably 5 Islamists will be elected tonight in America.
Yeah, well, that's of course true. Engage, a Muslim Brotherhood organization, has been working for years to elect Muslims at every level of American government. Also, the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations has been working on this. And so it's no surprise, really, that they have achieved success because there's no pushback on the other side. Nobody's saying, hey, this is something we should be concerned about, except you, Brannon, and a few others. Most people don't think that it's any matter of concern that a Muslim would be elected to office in the United States any more than it would be if a Baptist or a Methodist were elected. It's just another religion flavor. But they don't realize that Islam is not just religious, it's political, supremacist, aggressive, violent, and oppressive. And it is consequently something that everybody should be concerned about. So the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, the Mayor of New York, they are just 2 of many more to come in the near future, and it's going to be trouble.
And what do you, you heard Michael Reagan bring up the Socialist Democrats of America. And of course, we know this red-green axis is working directly with CAIR and Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, they have to be pretty excited about how far they've come. And as Annie has written at her great website, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, here we are on the November 4th anniversary of the taking of the hostages at the embassy in Tehran. And yet they're winning elections.
Yes, sorry, I thought that you were going to Annie on that.
No, I'm going to you.
Let me add something. And here's the thing: the 2 major. So the first Muslim woman lieutenant governor who just was called, she's, from my research, she's Ahmadiyya Muslim, meaning she comes from a Shia sect. So does Mamdani. I know we normally concentrate on CAIR and Saudi Arabia and Wahhabis and Sunnis, but Robert, seems like this 2025 election, out of 8 candidates, the major ones who are hitting bigger stages are Shia. Why?
Well, this is not really as big a distinction right now in the United States as it would be if we were in Pakistan or Indonesia. The fact is that the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is Sunni, is the largest institutional donor to the Mamdani campaign.
But that's my point. The majority of Muslim Americans are Sunni. The rich organizations are Sunni. So suddenly they don't hate each other anymore? They're united now?
They hate each other, but they don't hate each other as much as they hate the infidels. And so they see this young, attractive, far-left candidate that they think can win, and obviously he has won, and they figure this is somebody to back because he's going to carry the Muslim Brotherhood agenda forward, even if he's Shia. And it's the same thing with the Ahmadis. That we have had several of them in American politics, and they are all just water carriers for the Muslim Brotherhood.
Explain, Annie, why you brought that up for again keeping it elementary here. The Sunnis versus the Shia, the Shiites. Shiite being Iran, Sunnis being Saudi Arabia, correct?
No, Saudi Arabia are Wahhabis. Sunnis are Taliban, ISIS, Al Qaeda. Majority of Qatar. These are the Sunnis.
Okay, and the Shiites would be your Iranians.
Majority Iranians, part of Iraq, part of Pakistan, part of India are also Shia.
Why were you bringing that up? What does that mean to you, Annie?
Well, to me, it means when 10 years ago I started saying, stop worrying about Sunni versus Shia versus Wahhabis, Iran versus Qatar versus Saudi Arabia, people kept telling me they're killing each other in the Middle East. They're killing each other in the Middle East. And I kept saying, just like that, I love it. That's why I asked Robert. Robert says, yes, they do hate each other, but not as much as they hate the infidels. I kept telling people, stop believing this side, Turkey against Iran, behind doors, they're helping each other. Inside Middle East, they will try to take power, but outside of their own lands and their own little region of Muslims, Arab versus Pakistani versus Indian versus Persian makes no difference outside. When they come to Western countries, they want to kill everybody, even if that means they will collaborate and cooperate with each other.
Well, look at Iran funding Hamas. And Hamas is a Sunni group, but they both hate Israel. They both want to destroy Israel. So the Shiite Islamic Republic of Iran is happy to give money. They're the chief funder. 83% of Hamas funding comes from Iran. And they got no problem with that. It's an old Arabic saying that translates, my brother against my brother, but both of us against our cousin. So we, the infidels, are the cousin in that scenario. They're happy to band together to destroy us.
All right, so tell me what else you're watching tonight. I mean, are you watching what's going on in Minneapolis? What do you know? Tell our audience, for those who aren't following that, about the guy running the Islamist Marxist in Minneapolis.
Yeah, you got a carbon copy Mamdani in Minneapolis. Omar Fateh, he's a Somali, a Sunni Muslim from Somalia, who is also a Marxist, also tied into the leftist Islamic machine that's growing in the United States. He is also obviously from an immigrant background. So he's just the same template as Mamdani. And I show in my book about Mamdani, Intifada on the Hudson, that he, Omar Fateh, and others are part of this new strategy on the part of the Democrats to field candidates of this kind that are supposedly diverse. Of course, they're all communists. They all think the same way ultimately, but they look different. They're different colors. And that's the main thing that's important to the left. So Omar Fateh, I think, has a very good chance to be elected tonight in Minneapolis, a greater chance than a lot of people have given him. And he's going to wreck Minneapolis as much as Mamdani is going to wreck New York.
And his biggest endorsement, don't forget, the two most popular and loved people in Minnesota by Muslim population of Minnesota have endorsed him, which is Ilhan Omar and Keith Ellison. That's it. I mean, if Ilhan could win with that number of wins, just solo endorsement of Keith Ellison, I agree with Robert that Fateh is going. There's a very much higher chance than anybody else is giving him.
How long before we see Minnesota or Michigan elect a Muslim governor?
Oh, that could easily come next time.
2016.
Race.
That's
Whenever
right,
that
2026.
thing is, Brannon, we have to remember that when we're talking about Islam, we're talking about an extremely collectivist ideology and religion. It is not an individualistic thing at all. It's very collectivist. You only have any meaning in your life as part of the Ummah, the global Islamic community. And that being the case, it is extremely important to conform. And many people have noted that obedience to Islamic law in the Islamic world is as strict as the conformism is. That is, if the authorities aren't looking, then people do whatever they want. But if they're looking, then they stay in line. You know to conform to the group. Now, what does that have to do with American elections? Everything. Because every group in the United States splits. And, you talk about women or Hispanics or whatever group you want to name, and it'll say 60-40, 55-45, 70-30, whatever. But when you're talking about Muslim communities, it's going to be 100-0. Because you're talking about voting as a duty to the collective, and you vote as you are ordered to do so. This makes the Muslim bloc very attractive to politicians, but also very powerful. And this is why Omar Fateh is likely to win, a big reason why Mamdani has such a big lead and is going to win, and why
in fact, we're hearing right now that he is Mamdani is projected to win New York City's mayoral election.
There you go. Goodbye, New York.
Well, 60.2% of votes are in, and he's leading with almost 9% ahead of Como. I mean, unless the remaining votes are all for him and no split for the Republican guy, it looks like Mamdani has this.
And if the Republican candidate, what was his name? Curtis Silwell?
Yes, Silwa.
If he had dropped out, look at that. Put those back up. It would have almost been a dead heat, right?
Yep.
Well, I would say yes, but you don't know, because I know a lot of New York City people. I know people there who would vote for anyone but Como. So 99% you're right, but there's a good chance that those votes would go to Mamdani as well, because they would refuse to vote for Como. That's the thing. I was thinking about Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. You see, part of the problem is the counter candidates are not good candidates either. The person running against Ghazala, the Lieutenant Governor, was trying to make history by being the first openly gay Republican. Really, that's the best we got in Virginia?
Oh, yeah, I got to go to Roger Stone here, but let me ask you in closing real quick, Robert. Where do you think this leaves us in a year from tonight, 2 years from tonight? Is this going to start gaining steam with more and more Islamists being elected? And again, our problem isn't with Muslims. Our problem is with Islam, which is Sharia, which is Islamic law, which is overthrowing our republic, just like the revolutionaries and the Marxist parties want to do. Where do you see a year from now, 2 years from now, with this being where we're at tonight with the victories by so many Islamists? It looks like 5 are going to win that Annie's tracking.
But you're going to see many more. Every election cycle now, you're going to see many more. Nihad Awad of the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations has said we're going to have 100 congressmen by 2050. And this is something that they are making a concerted effort to work toward. And here again, nobody's pushing back. Nobody is saying this is a danger that we have to try to resist. And so it's just going to keep on like a stone rolling downhill.
Do you expect a terrorist attack in America? Because it seems like to me this would be a really bad time to attack. They're winning. Why would they want to do a terrorist attack? Or are these free agents that are not under anybody's direct control, Robert?
Well, yes, they are free agents. And also, yes, they are winning. And so it would make sense not to do a terror attack, except that if you look at 9/11, everything they got as a result of 9/11. and it's been a massive victory for them. They were able to play the Islamophobia card and claim they were victimized and get all manner of special accommodation and influence and special privilege and power. And so another attack would just cement that.
Woo. So another attack would actually help them. And I remember we've had Usama and Sharam and others talking about the fact that Islam really grew after 9/11. So Robert Spencer, jihadwatch.org, jihadwatch.org. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Roger Stone, who joins us tonight from the Stone Zone, stonezone.com, stonezone.com. Roger Stone, who has, of course, worked on many a political campaign going back decades. He joins us tonight to give us his thoughts. You can hear and pick up his show regularly at stonezone.com, stonezone.com. Let's go to Roger Stone. Roger, thank you for joining us tonight.
Brannon, great to be back with you.
You too, my friend. I don't know how much of our conversation you just heard there, but we looked like we had the first Muslim elected statewide in Virginia, the first statewide election holder, I guess, anytime in America. We looks like we have now is projected the winner, Mamdani in New York, a Muslim, Islamist, and Marxist. I want to reiterate again, our issue isn't with Muslims. I mean, my friend Sharam will be on here later. His daddy was a beer-drinking, pork-eating Muslim. But he didn't practice Islam. He got out 6 weeks before the fall of the Shah because he didn't want to be there. Islam is the issue, and these people are unapologetically Islamic. What do you know and think as a political expert when you see these wins? Where are we going with this coalition of Marxists and Islamists next year and then in 2 years? 2 years.
This is as a result of the demographic change in America. Where let's take New York City, for example. Only at this point, roughly a third of the residents of New York City are white. Less than a quarter of them are Roman Catholics. There has been an implosion in the both Hispanic population as well as the Muslim population. The Republican Party registration in the city of New York is down to 10%. I actually thought it was 13. I was wrong. So demographically, the city has changed. Many of the more conservative middle-class voters, because of the crime and tax issues, have moved elsewhere. So there's been both an influx of illegals, a mixture of foreign-born, but some legal, many illegal, as well as a mass exodus of middle-class and upper-middle-class white voters. So that creates the dynamic in which a Mamdani, who is really not what you think he is. They would tell you he's a grassroots phenomena, and that all of these progressive activists rising up to challenge special interest money and the special interest. When if you look at it closely, what you'll see is that his campaign was financed by an interlocking directorate of 501c3s, 501c4s, NGOs, political parties, most of them financed with foreign money, some of it Soros money, but other highly suspicious money, all of it, by the way, illegally. But you would think that a grassroots candidate like Mamdani, who has gotten thousands of hits on social media, you would think somebody would have clicked the contribute button on his website. But in his very first campaign finance report, after winning the primary, we learned that there were no such small donors. So this is a fraud on the people of New York City. Yet Andrew Cuomo was so badly damaged as a candidate. This is a former governor who said, if you believe in the right to own a gun or you don't support abortion, there's no place for you in New York City. You should leave. Now, he says if Mamdani's elected mayor, he's going to move to Florida. Let me give you a hint. We don't want him here with those views. So he was a badly flawed candidate. As you know, he had to resign as governor ahead of impeachment over charges of sexual harassment and assault against various women. He is the author of the no cash bail system in New York City that has caused their skyrocketing in crime. So for those who think that there's some difference between Mamdani and Cuomo, they essentially have the same basic policies. Mamdani's, I think, would ramp up in a much faster and more dangerous way, but Cuomo's as soft on crime as Mamdani is.
Jimmy Carter gave us Ronald Reagan, right? And we could say that we've had other great candidates elected because of candidates that scared the living daylights out of us. Are the Republican Party going to see someone like an Elise Stefanik maybe run and win as governor of New York because of the now new mayor of New York City?
I think that's a very interesting observation. I think that this has created that unique circumstance in which a blue state like New York could elect a Republican governor, assuming that once he defunds the police, once he raises taxes on white people, that's what he said, not me, Mamdani. Once he opens Rikers Island and lets all of the criminals out, once he tries to tell anybody with a job that their purpose is to pay for people who refuse to work, you're going to see a disaster in New York City as large employers flee, small employers leave, property values will plummet. This is going to redound, unfortunately. I feel badly for our friends who live in New York City, but it will politically benefit Elise Stefanik, who already is shown in a new Emerson College poll to only be trailing Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul by 5 points. That's more than a competitive race. Stefanik is battle tested. She's been very, very good, taking a leadership position against the weaponization of the judiciary against President Donald Trump. She's also been a major fighter for the Strategic Defense Initiative, essentially a missile shield like the Israelis have, which was funded under Joe Biden, but was never built because Biden dragged his heels. Elise Stefanik has been a major proponent of building that at Fort Drum in New York, which is, by the way, the logical place for it. The money has already been appropriated long ago, but the Democrats refuse to spend it. I think Donald Trump will get that done thanks to Elise Stefanik.
We had lead pollster at Rasmussen on tonight, first guest up. He's very disgusted with the Republican Party, the Republican Congress, House and Senate. Where do you stand on that? Is this, I mean, some of these are very deep blue states, as Michael Reagan just pointed out, but Virginia, I mean, that was a state that just had a Republican governor. So what do you think is going on here? Does this have anything to do with the GOP not having a plan and moving more forward?
I actually don't think that is the issue. First of all, let's be candid. Virginia has had the same kind of demographic changes I described in New York.
Right.
So Virginia, which was a reliably conservative state in the 70s and the early 80s, has moved substantially left with the implosion of federal employees in Northern Virginia, a place where Republicans used to break even, but where we now get badly beaten. And the fact that the Richmond suburbs like Henrico and Chesterfield County, which used to be reliably conservative, have become substantially more moderate. You do have a substantial military presence, in the Tidewater area. That kind of rebounds to the Republican. But it has been a reliably Democrat state. Glenn Youngkin's upset victory was, I think, based largely on spending. Glenn Youngkin, a Republican businessman who made all of his money dealing with communist China, and ran as a moderate anti-Trump Republican. Now, to his credit, he did as governor, because you can only serve one term as governor of Virginia under their constitution. He did support Donald Trump's amazing comeback election in 2024, but his election was an anomaly. And New Jersey is also interesting as a state that has trended against us more recently, but it's interesting that Trump only lost there by 5 points in 2024. And that's when the state was not targeted, meaning that no resources were spent on the campaign there. Trump did not visit there unless he was at Bedminster, stopping at his club there to stay overnight when he wasn't on trial in New York or campaigning on the stump. It is important to note you have not had a Republican governor in recent years, but Trump lost by 15 in 2020. He only lost by 5 in 2024, and that's with not being targeted. So all of the Trump campaign activities came from local grassroots people who raised their own money. Mike Crispy is a perfect example. to stage their own events. And of course, Trump did do one appearance on the boardwalk in Wildwood, which I think had 250,000 people or something like that.
Let's talk real quick, a couple more things to let you go. Venezuela. What is this all about? I know we got Russia, China, Hezbollah playing around in there. We've been talking about it on our network since 2010. And then, of course, there's a lot of concern about voter fraud coming out of Venezuela. Is there a combination of things here for the Trump administration? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, look, the left, the regime that controls Venezuela, has most definitely benefited from rigged elections, and I think rigged election technology. But Maduro is a Marxist narco trafficker. He is a failed dictator. Life is grim for the people of this once prosperous country. The Trump administration, I think, has been very clear that he has to go. There's going to be a lot of maneuvering over the transition committee that rules the country if he is removed. And that's a giant if. Now, if you watched an interview with President Trump the other day, he was asked by a reporter, if Maduro gave us everything, anything we wanted, would we let him stay? And Trump said, oh, he's offered us everything. But he's about to learn you don't F with the United States. To me, that demonstrates the president intends to remove him. But what comes after him remains to be seen. Many people believe that Maria Corina Machado, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, and who was the putative face of the resistance, would presumably be part of a transition. Some will argue that she won the last election, but it remains murky. I salute Marco Rubio and Tulsi Gabbard and President Trump for their resolve against communism in this hemisphere. What's going on in Honduras is outrageous. In Honduras, it's absolutely clear that the Biden Justice Department framed the sitting pro-American, pro-Trump president Hernandez for drug dealing, which was an absurdity. They only had 2 witnesses against him. They were both convicted drug dealers. No other evidence. This was a fraud to remove a pro-Western president and replace him with Xiomara Castro, who might as well be related to Fidel Castro because she's a Marxist.
Question, 2026, what do you see happening? Republicans lose the House and Senate. And then what do you see going on in 2028? Are we going to see a Marco Rubio, a Vance Rubio ticket? Are we going to see a Tulsi Gabbard running? Or what do you say, Roger?
Well, first of all, it's incredibly early.
Yes, it is.
And in American politics, a week is a lifetime. So anybody can tell you, for example, I was on with Laura Loomer about a month ago, and she just matter-of-factly said, well, we're going to lose the House. Actually, we don't know that yet. It's possible we could lose the House, but it's also possible we could not lose the House. It's even possible that we could gain and broaden our margin a bit in the House. I don't think it's likely that we will lose the Senate, but even there, it is too early to say. What will the inflation rate be at that time? Are we at war at that time? Is there a war that we've been drawn into in Europe? That's a real possibility. What are housing prices like? What's the Fed set the interest rate at that point? What is unemployment? What is inflation? All of these things will be key factors. It's much too early to say. This much we can say: the Republicans are doing a good job of fundraising. So they will have the ammunition necessary to communicate to voters, which is still vitally important. The left is lost. I mean, the leaders of the party of Harry Truman and John F. Kennedy, the party that, although perhaps more liberal than we are, still supported the concept of free enterprise, capitalism, a strong national defense, and even God. That Democrat Party literally no longer exists. And the new heads of that party are Zohran Mamdani and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and as I say, Mamdani and that tired old socialist windbag Bernie Sanders. By the way, you notice how Bernie used to criticize millionaires and billionaires.
He is a multimillionaire now.
Now he just criticizes billionaires because Bernie and his wife skimmed so much in media placement fees from his 2 presidential campaigns, which, by the way, is not illegal, although I think unethical if you not disclose that to your donors. Comrade Bernie is quite rich at this point.
He owns multiple houses, does he not?
So I think he has 3 vacation houses. He's driving a top-of-the-line Mercedes, which is way better than what I'm driving.
Take a look here, stonezone.com, as you see on the screen, and you can follow him at Roger J. Stone Jr., at Roger J. Stone Jr. on X, and also on WABCradio.com each and every day. You'll find it all also at stonezone.com. Roger, when is your next best dress list come out?
Now, I don't do my international men and women's best and worst dress list until New Year's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've done it for 15 years, with 1 year that I couldn't do it because a federal judge gagged me, and the gag would have included my international best and worst dress list commentary. But it'll be out on New Year's Day, next New Year's Day. I don't take bribes. Just to say, if you're trying to get on the list, don't even think about bribing me because I won't take bribes.
I've already been on it, though.
You merited a place on it. You won a piece on it because you're a sharp dresser.
Well, I learned from guys like you, Roger.
But beyond that, I must say that it's great to be back with you. I have fond memories of doing a show here every day, and who knows, someday I may very well return to doing that.
Well, you know the door's open.
I know that. I like radio, and I love the folks at 77 WABC who syndicate my radio show, the folks at Red Apple. And you could be, doing it in your underwear and nobody would ever really know. And the preparation, Brandon, is just as intense as it is, that you put into these shows or that I put into a video show. So it is great to be back with you. I do kind of feel like I'm at home.
Well, I hope you feel that way. You've been in studio with us, and we'd love to have you back. And the door is always open for us to produce your show. The guys in the control room miss you.
Great to be with you again. God bless you.
You too. Roger Stone checking in. StoneZone.com. StoneZone.com. All right. Who do we got up next, guys? I mean, we're just knocking them out, aren't we? Who we got? All right. Trevor. Well, let's just add them all together. Can we do that? Trevor Loudon and Daniel Greenfield. Let's add them in. We'll add in Annie, who I think went to get some coffee. And this could be a great chance. We've been on the air now an hour and 20 minutes and not one commercial break, but we got to pay for it somehow. For any of the new people, they often see me drinking this green drink right here. This is called Gatatana. It's a phytoplankton. One scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. I said billion with a B. That's right. 90 billion plant cells. You can go to Melissa Howse, GPA.com to find out all about it. 5 clinical trials behind it. The man who developed it had a terminal diagnosis. They gave him just a few months to live, and he was growing this phytoplankton in these tanks. You see one behind him in that picture. There was his daughter. And he was feeding his starfish and crayfish this phytoplankton. And he just started eating the paste. I thought, well, what I got to lose? His daughter's on video. He's on video. And she's like, I told him, what are you doing? This is for crayfish. He's like, what do I got to lose? I'm terminal. So he starts eating this phytoplankton, starts feeling better. His diabetes get better. Goes to the doctor, has 11 biopsies done on his lungs. They're like, your lungs were covered with a white film. All 11 biopsies came back benign. He went on to live another 10 years, retired to Hawaii. This is the story. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you the story. I drink it every day. I give half a scoop to my beloved studio dog, Dolly. And we've got pictures where a cat had a tumor in the eye, got the cat on the Gatatana, tumor gone. This feeds your cells down to the very, very basic of the cells, your mitochondria. Boost your immune system so your own immune system can fight off the bad stuff. So I drink this every day, oftentimes on the air. It's now common I used to drink it once a day, but I've asked the wife to give it to me twice a day because I know and I'm hearing about the personal responses from folks who've been on it. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna start drinking this twice a day, right? I'm kind of like, if it's that good, give me 2 of them. So I urge you to go to Melissa Howse, GPA.com. I stir it up because I don't want to miss out on any of it because it's all that good for you. It's so good for you. Again, you don't have to take my word for it. Go do your own homework at MelissaHowse, GPA.com. Get a subscription. And again, with these products, we don't promote products we don't believe in. We don't promote products we don't use ourselves. All right. I don't use the makeup, the skin cream makeup. I don't use that. My wife does. But I do use the Bella Grace, the Gatatana, the Numi. I use all this. BlissHouseGPA.com. I'm going to keep drinking my Gatatana while I get back to interviewing folks. But I hope you will check that out at BlissHouseGPA.com. Joining me now is Trevor Loudon, expert on communism. And also with us is Daniel Greenfield, as well as Anni Cyrus. Daniel Greenfield, of course, is a syndicated columnist. He's with FrontPageMag.com. He's one of my Jewish friends, and I would like to ask him right off the bat tonight, Daniel, the Christians and the Jews had better wake up in America, because the Islamists like to say that they're coming after the Saturday people, then they're coming after the Sunday people. And I don't know. This is not good tonight. The first ever statewide elected Islamist, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, and now Mamdani, Mayor, Marxist-Islamist mayor of New York, the biggest city in America. What do you make of all this tonight as an expert on Islam and Marxism?
Well, they've already started coming for the Sunday people. If you've seen events in Dearborn, and if you've seen a Christian man being told that he does not belong in what is now a Muslim city. Of course, that's the treatment that is coming in New York City already. Mamdani has made history in a number of ways. One of those is that he's the first mayor elected without Jewish support. About 60% of the Jewish vote went to Cuomo, who, as flawed and as bad as he was, is still considered a better alternative to Mamdani. But we also saw polls in which about 28% of Mamdani was only winning about 28% of Protestant, 32% or so of Catholics. So Mamdani has won over the opposition of Christians and Jews in New York City. The only group he was winning with, the only religious group he was winning with, was the other group, which is presumably Muslims. So this is a situation where you have Marxists and Muslims electing a mayor to control New York City. So that's certainly historic in a worst possible way.
What do you make of the terror plot we're being told about in Dearborn, Michigan? Apparently, these guys were going to go after an LGBTQ gay bar. Do you believe this? Do you believe it's a legitimate case? Has it been made into more than it really was? I hate we have to ask that, but who trusts this government, what they put out? But if it is true, you write an article about how it's kind of interesting that the media is completely silent that the Islamists were going after the LGBTQ. How is this going to go in these states that elect these mayors and elected officials that are Muslims? How's it going to go for the LGBTQ community? We talked about Jews and Christians. What about the LGBTQ community?
Oh, in Iran and Egypt, you had an alliance between the Marxists, the leftists, and the Islamists. And the alliance ended in exactly the way you expect, with the Islamists eating up the leftists. We actually are seeing this play out already in America, in Hamtramck, which is one of the first Muslim-controlled cities in America. They allied with the left to take over the city. And of course, the moment they took over, they banned pride flags. And this video of this leftist gay councilwoman who was very, very angry about it because, she helped them take over, and now they just stabbed them in the back. But it's the story of the scorpion over and over again. So at some point, the various leftist activists, the LGBTQs who are allying with Islam, the queers for Palestine, all these people are going to find out that when you give the scorpion a ride, it's going to end with you sinking into the river.
Why did you say Mamdani's campaign was made in Pakistan?
Well, there's now actually information coming out that a lot of these social media clout, a lot of the promotion, you were just seeing him everywhere, was faked. It was backed by so-called bot farms operating out of Pakistan, India, those, his homeland, really, which is not Uganda, it's the Indian Muslim territories. They were the ones who were out there spreading his videos, spreading his message, promoting it, liking it, doing all the stuff to make him seem very, very popular. The reality was, yes, he's won this an election where in the city where people would vote for Hitler if he ran in the Democratic plank. But in the original primary, where he secured the Democratic nomination, he only got about 5% of the vote from New Yorkers. Most people just did not bother to vote. I think we're seeing below average turnout even in the mayoral election.
Annie, jump in here, will you?
Of course. Well, let me following up with the question Brannon had, what are the chances? Because I've seen it, but I don't know the numbers. What are the chances a lot of Christians are voting for these Muslims because they like the stabbing in the back, but not in a form of a stabbing in the back? They're desperate because their own candidate is not banning the LGBTQ banner and flag in schools and story times. Are they?
Well, I mean, there are people who wanted to go that kind of route. I don't think it's so much happening in New York City, but in places like, I mean, part of the debate we're having about anti-Semitism is you have these people who are now insisting that on the right that they should ally with Islam, that they should have their own version of Islam. But just like leftists allying with Islam, it's going to end one way, which again is not any kind of enduring alliance. It's them being eaten by the same monster that they're allying with.
But that's what I'm trying to figure out here as I try to stay calm with what's happening tonight. But I know a lot of Democrats are involved, voters. I know a lot of Muslims are involved, but I also think a lot of Republicans, one way or another, either tired of their own candidates not delivering, wanting to see a dramatic change, but hiding behind, oh, it was a Muslim who did it. I think Republicans are contributing to this green wave as well.
The Muslim Brotherhood certainly has tried infiltrating the Republican Party. When we look at people like Tucker Carlson who are promoting Sharia law, who are sending this message that we need to ally with Islam, again, I think these people are playing a very, very dangerous game, and it's only going to end one way. Islam has always spread by dividing and conquering, whether it was historically with the conflict between the Byzantine Empire and Persia, or in modern times where they're exploiting our political differences in Europe and America. But they're exploiting that entirely to divide and conquer us. They have no allegiance to either side. They're not Republicans. They're not Democrats. They're not on the left. They're not on the right. People are calling Mamdani a communist. Yes, Mamdani says communist things. He's actually a rich kid. His real allegiance is to Islam, and people need to remember that.
Let me bring in real quick Trevor Loudon. Isn't this interesting, Trevor, that Annie is talking about the fact that you have maybe some Republicans crossing over and voting for Islam, as some Republicans are now, making Islam, more acceptable. I think people like Tucker Carlson interviewing people that are Hamas. I think Tucker said himself, Hamas, they're just a political organization, aren't they? Maybe we can find that clip, Logan. But then again, let's talk about the evangelicals. We had James White doing an interfaith dialogue with Yasser Qadi, a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Hitler-defending, jihadi-preaching imam. And when Usama and I and Sharam and others brought it out, we got attacked by even so-called evangelicals, including Bible ministry, so-called. How dare we do that? So I think the political side has helped prepare a way for Republicans to vote for Muslim candidates, Islamic candidates. I think there's those within obviously the mainline liberal churches, but even the Protestant churches that have made a way for that. What say you, Trevor?
Well, I think there's two aspects to this. Tucker Carlson is not a conservative.
Right.
He is a left-wing social conservative, basically a semi-fascist. That's what Tucker Carlson is. And so he is the Russians and the Iranians are trying to neutralize American conservatives, split American conservatives, and push this as allied with Islamic narrative on them. On the other side, you have got some evangelical Christians who are just so naive, it's just unbelievable. Think that, the Muslims, they have conservative social values. They don't like the LGBTQ stuff. They're sort of very socially conservative. We can ally with these people. Well, you got to have a lot more in common than that to form a real strategic alliance. And I think Daniel is perfectly correct that will end in tragedy. That will end in by allowing the Muslims into the Republican Party, that can only weaken the Republican Party and benefit the left. That's all it can do. There is the only slight pushback I'd have on what Daniel said is that I think Mamdani is a communist first and a Muslim second. But either way, he is a communist. He is absolutely a communist. His father was the founder of the Uganda-North Korea Friendship Society. This goes way back. Like Nihad Awad was a communist before he was a Muslim, before he was a political Muslim. And this is a bit of a dispute I have with some of my friends in this area. I think that many of the Islamic radicals that we see are actually more communist than Muslim, but overall Islam is a religion that has not been built by proselytization. It's been built by conquest, either demographically or militarily, and they will continue to do that. Muslims are killing people in Nigeria and other places right now because they can. If they can do it in America, they will do it here too.
Let's take a look at this, Annie. Look at this. We have Minneapolis mayor right now with 7% of the vote in thus far. The Omar is at 28.5. The current mayor of Minneapolis, Frey, is at 38%. So I don't know what precincts are going. We got a three-way race here. So again, this may make a difference with a three-way race.
Yes, and when 5% was in, Fatah was actually first. He was ahead. So considering how many are coming in, I still think Fatah stands a very strong chance of winning this. And I want to, if I could just, one thing, we can definitely safely call New York City. It's done. He took it. Mamdani's in. But I want to just mention something, Trevor, when you said, Mamdani is a communist first, Islamist second, or when Daniel says Islamist first, communist. Is there really much of a difference between a Muslim and a communist?
Not a lot. It's a little bit academic in some ways, but they are allied at this point in time against the Western nations. They may fall out and fight each other sometime in the future, but I'll just say to that, the communists have got a lot more nukes than the Muslims.
Yes, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'll go back to there is a green wave, and though we do need to be very careful and very emphasizing the communist and the socialist movement, but then in the battle, Muslims always won. When it comes to red-green, green always conquered when red helped green become majority and take power. So maybe I'm just biased, maybe it's personal, but the fact that the attention, especially on Mamdani, is more like, for example, the government comes as like, if Mamdani wins, we do this and that because he's a socialist, and they don't even touch the Muslim part of it because they're okay with the rest of the Muslims who are winning tonight or who are running for 2026. Or Brannon was just asking Roger Stone about what 2028, and as Roger said rightfully too early, but I have a suggestion. Why don't we go to Keith Allison for a candidate for 2028? That could be your candidate for Democrats. I know everybody's focusing on Gavin Newsom, but I have a feeling Keith Allison is going to pop up and be the candidate for 2028 to be the official Muslim president. The way we're going, go ahead.
No, he may try, but I think he'd have no chance. But he may try, But we are seeing a huge increase in Muslim candidates standing around the country. A few on the Republican ticket, but mostly on the Democrat ticket. And the Democrat ones are always being aided by the left. Wherever you look in Delaware or Detroit or Texas, the left is backing these people almost universally.
Let me ask you, Daniel, where are we at? I mean, a year from now, 2 years from now, how are we going to have a coalition of America First, constitutionalist patriots, when we have people that have been pretty big figures in the movement, like Tucker Carlson saying, well, Hamas, isn't that just a political organization? Watch this clip.
value.
But you should know, Seth, that the real danger is Sharia law. Sharia law. And you can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, like, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this with a rape rate of 0, where you leave your keys in your Lamborghini and don't ever worry about it being stolen. And, you know, if people want to get wasted, they do it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't.
Boy, I hope we don't wind up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, I mean, Sharia law is obviously just a punchline. I don't know that too many people actually believe in the reality of that. And I mean, sure, like I said, you know,
no one can plausibly claim that a Christian family are in Hamas. Okay. So like tell me, you can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda. So it can't also be true that
it's just a political organization. And Sharia, well, God forbid we ever end up with Sharia and you can leave your keys in your Lamborghini, your sports car, Lamborghini. Daniel, how are we going to have a coalition to take on the Marxists and the Islamists when this is how people with millions of followers like Tucker are talking and now platforming, you know, Nick Fuentes, who's praising Stalin and Hitler and talking about the minorities, blacks, in ways this week that I just can't believe that people talk that way and then get on Tucker's show or any other show for that matter. You know, I said to Logan this today, I said, you know, the left said that the MAGA crowd is they're a bunch of neo-Nazis and they're a bunch of fascists. Well, we know that the Socialist Workers' Party, the Nazi Party, was the Socialist Workers' Party. We know it was a fascist party. Big government, big business merging together, burning books, etc., shutting down churches or pulling out, cracking down on the churches big time. Of course, many of them dissolved their denominations, united under the Reich bishop handpicked by Adolf Hitler. But the left was saying, MAGA, they're neo-Nazis, they're fascists. Well, wow. Now we actually have people that are fascists and neo-Nazis getting interviews and being promoted. They're falling right into the narrative. This cannot be happening on its own. Someone has to be setting the MAGA movement up or being paid to do this. Are these people this stupid to do this on their own? Daniel?
No, we've seen this before. We've seen this with how they wrecked the Tea Party movement. It's now happening with MAGA over again. And Tucker's favorite guests are not conservatives. They're people like Glenn Greenwald, a gay Brazilian socialist. I love how Tucker has Glenn Greenwald on all the time, and now he's opposing Trump taking on the cartels because that's a global homo conspiracy. And his other favorite guests are somebody like Jeff Sachs, a UN official funded by George Soros. These people are not fighting the left. I call them the anti-American right. They're there to prop up the Marxists and the Islamists, and the right part is a highly theoretical one. So these people are here to destroy MAGA. We've seen text messages from Tucker talking about how much he hates Trump, how much he hates this movement. We just have to get wise to the fact that we have enemies within, that they are out there to bring us down, and that they are allied with Islamists and the Marxists, and that unless we actually stand up to them instead of pretending that these people are on our side, we are going to lose.
You have an article this week that the media complains that Trump officials are staying at military bases to avoid being murdered. How long before we see more political assassinations of people who are speaking out against Islam, Marxism, these kind of things? Now elected officials have to stay on military bases.
It's an absolutely insane situation, backed by the fact that the Biden administration unleashed this. The Biden administration signed off on so-called protests outside the homes of Supreme Court justices to terrorize them. This is very much on the former Attorney General Garland. So they normalize this. Now they're normalizing a new level of violence targeting ICE, targeting any officials involved in deportations of illegal aliens. Again, we're going to insurrection and we're going past insurrection. And of course, we're going to have more political assassinations. We've had a number of plots that were just narrowly averted, including the Justice Kavanaugh assassination. We had the assassination attempt on Governor Josh Shapiro. In Pennsylvania, we're going to have more and more violence. And that's something pretty much everybody agrees. We actually have a recent poll, a majority of Republicans and Democrats say they expect the assassination of a top political official within the next few years. So we are going there. And this is part of the bigger picture. We're going toward a civil war. We're walking down, one step, two steps, three steps, and at that point, we actually will end up in a civil war.
Do you have a time frame on that?
It depends on how many of those moves actually get made, how quickly they get made. For example, if the Democrats come back to power in 2028, not at all impossible. They have a majority. They actually move ahead with the plans they discussed before to make Puerto Rico and D.C. into states, to rig the Supreme Court. At that point, we are in civil war territory. Some of the redistricting we're seeing nationwide, that could very well take us into civil war territory. The increasing insurrectionist pushes in states and cities where they're actively getting the police to target ICE, and they're encouraging the police to start arresting or impeding ICE personnel. You have a firefight between city, state, and federal law enforcement personnel that is literally civil war territory.
We did actually have a video clip earlier today, if I can find it real quick, of Eric Holder. Eric Holder was talking about the fact that if they win, we have got to do something about the Supreme Court. So this is already being open. Of course, they've been talking about that, but they're getting more and more aggressive about reforming the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the one thing that's going to come out of this is the Overton window has been opened wide open, and people love a lot of the things that President Trump did. But remember, a lot of those are executive orders. They can be and will be brushed aside the moment that a Democrat takes power. Gavin Newsom or AOC takes office in 2028. Do not think this cannot happen. Look at the election results tonight. If the economy is bad, the Democrat is going to win. And at that point, they're going to do all the stuff that Biden was doing. They're going to double down on it. The stuff we're seeing come out in Arctic frost, the surveillance of the political opponents, they're going to double, triple down on that. We're going to see something far worse than we saw under Biden, which was already worse than we were seeing under Obama. So we are dancing very close to the edge of the abyss here.
Here's Eric Holder.
The point that you make there is an extremely important one. The courts have generally held. If you look at what's happening at the district court level, at the Court of Appeals level, doesn't matter who the president was who appointed the judge. The judges have ruled, I think, courageously and correctly. It's only when you get to the Supreme Court that you see these problems start to arise, and it's the use of this overuse of the shadow docket. By taking these cases and essentially deciding them without hearing any oral argument, without any adequate briefing, deciding these really important matters in that way, challenges the legitimacy of the court and does an untold amount of damage to the legal fabric of this nation. I think, the reality is, and it pains me to say this, I think the Supreme Court is a broken institution. And it's something that has to be, I think, a part of the national conversation in 26 and in 28. What are we going to do about the Supreme Court? And I think that we have to think about, again, talking about the acquisition and the use of power. If there is a Democratic trifecta in 2028, and I think the possibility of that is pretty good, Supreme Court reform is something that has to be considered. Term limits, I think, at a minimum, potentially expanding the court is something I think that also should be considered. We cannot leave in place without a discussion, at least, and I think without substantive reforms being put in place, this Supreme Court as it is presently constituted.
Trevor Loudon, before we let you guys go, you want to talk about what we just heard from not only Holder here, former Attorney General under Obama, but what Daniel Greenfield was saying, that we are moving towards civil war, that we are dancing on the edge.
Well, we need to understand this has been a long-term program by the Russians and the Iranians to get inside the American right. Tucker is a pro-Russian guy. He's a pro-Hamas guy. His goal is to divide the right, and we should treat him like we treated David Duke in the 90s when he tried to infiltrate the Republican Party. The Republican Party was very strongly against Duke, a KKK leader who tried to become a Republican, and they threw him out of the party, as they should have. The same thing needs to happen to Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and people like this, and the disgraceful man from the Heritage Foundation who excused Tucker Carlson's behavior. So we need to understand that unless the Republican Party returns to its conservative values and absolutely stands against this kind of thing, the split is going to be enduring and serious, and the Democrats will retake the House.
Well, in fact,
we need to confront this now.
To that end, the poly markets are saying tonight that there is now a 70% chance that the Dems take the House a year from tonight. I know it's, again, a long way away, as Roger Stone just said, but 70% chance the Dems take the House based on tonight's elections, according to poly market.
Yeah, exactly. We cannot take that for granted at all. And Daniel is exactly right. What we will see under the next Democrat president will be way worse than Biden. And Biden was way worse than Obama. We are in a revolutionary situation. The Democratic Party now is Marxist, and they are aiming for a Czechoslovakia 1948 crackdown on their enemies, conservatives, Christians, whatever, to establish effectively a one-party state. They will legalize all the illegal immigrants that still remain in the country and give them voting rights. They will they'll pack the Supreme Court. They will make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states, so they have 4 more left-wing senators. Their goal is a one-party state in America, and we cannot sugarcoat that. That's what we're heading for. So it's
Trevor,
so important we heal the divisions in the Republican Party now, confront them now.
And if they get digital IDs, okay, if they're able to flip all this on, turn all this on, and move us from the system they're in now, which is collapsing, and China and Russia are dumping the dollar. I mean, they're basically done with it now, according to the surveys I'm reading. They're going to have to go to a new system. The debt, we're at the end of this debt cycle. They got to go to something new. They add digital IDs, social credit scores. Can you imagine you, Trevor, me, Annie, Daniel Greenfield, the rest of the folks in the audience tonight trying to conduct our life and run our organizations or businesses with social credit scores and what we saw under Biden with what they were saying about us, domestic terrorist, that we need to be deplatformed, shadow banned, blocked. I mean, can you, prosecuting a guy for a meme, right? Can you imagine the tyranny they can bring down on top of us, Trevor, with that kind of system?
Look, seriously, these people are as serious as Hugo Chavez. They're given another term of office, and the power that they will have, and they do all those things, they will be coming after us like you wouldn't believe. No, they are not going to ever allow another Trump or anyone else to come along. This will be full-on socialism in the United States, and the American Republic will be over. We cannot think we're going to fight back 4 years later or anything like this.
Won't be anything like
that is why winning the next 2 elections is, like we say this every time, that this is elections the most important. Well, it gets more important every time because the Democrats only have to win once. We have to win every time.
Closing comment from you.
Until we have enough reforms underway to defund them and get rid of their power. But right now we're hanging on by our fingernails.
Closing comment from you, Daniel.
Well, we are in a pretty dark and grave situation, but we have to remember the bigger picture, which is that there is a core patriotic America here. So in the way when we are winning, when things look good, that fades back. People just feel like, it's Trump is in charge. We can just sit back and let it happen. When we get a wake-up call like this, I think it's really important that we get wake-up calls like this. People start feeling energized. People start feeling, get the fight energy. We got the fight energy when President Trump was nearly murdered. We are tasting some of this now, and we really need to get that shock to the system now before 2026, because, yes, the Democrats stand a very good chance of taking the House as things are right now. We need to stop being complacent. We need to stop just celebrating social media memes. We need to realize that much of the country is not happy with the situation. The economy is still challenging. They're not seeing a lot of the promises being delivered. And if that does not change, they are going to vote for our enemies. They're going to vote for Marxists. They're going to vote for Islamists. They're going to vote for the destruction of this country, because the bottom line is what most people care about is their pocketbook.
A lot of great stuff by Daniel Greenfield, including domestic enemies you see over his shoulder. His website is danielgreenfield.org, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Daniel?
Yes.
DanielGreenfield.org. He's also over at frontpagemag.com. He's part of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Trevor is at TrevorLoudon.com. TrevorLoudon.com. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to be joined by Hadia Miramati in just one second, as well as another guest. I think this is the one that I've never had on before that's really Annie's friend. So we're going to have Annie introduce them. Before I do, remember, we're brought to you by you. This is another great sponsor. You saw me take my Gataton a while ago. I finished it off. This is what I also do every day. Bella Grace. This is an elixir I've been taking now since December of 2023. My hands would crack and bleed for years. I have the pictures to prove it. I've shown you guys those pictures. I'll show you again. I mean, that was a good picture. Okay, this is on a good day when my hands are cracking and bleeding. I could show you ones that are far worse. But that was considered a good day. The massive cracking and bleeding hurt like a son of a gun. And I could, no matter what I did, I couldn't get rid of it. Then I got on Bella Grace, and shockingly, I didn't know what it was going to do. I was actually hesitant. My wife was taking it. She was praising it. I was like, well, yeah, whatever. And she made me take it. She gave me no choice. Within a few weeks, my hands cleaned up, and they've been good and clean and not cracking and bleeding like that. I mean, since December 2023. So it's amazing the great results I've seen. Now, Dr. Lucky said, who's part of this company, you clearly had a leaky gut. Eczema like that's very common with a leaky gut. Your gut is made of collagen. And so there you go. And this is loaded with collagen, peptides cut short, so your body actually absorbs it. You say, well, I take collagen. Yeah, but most of you are taking the cheap collagen. About 95% of it runs through you, ends up in the toilet. This is peptides cut short, but it's also got cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory. Then it's got something called astaxanthin. That crosses the brain-blood barrier, takes on those free radicals. 80 clinical trials behind this. We get a lot of people that send us testimonies. Like I was supposed to have surgery on my finger. I couldn't even bend my finger. Got on this. I didn't have to have surgery. You think that sounds a little out there. Really? Well, we actually have quite a few of those kind. And the man that developed it, well, Dr. Miller, he got into a skiing accident, tore up his knee. He should have also had surgery. He was his own patient when he was developing this. He's never had to have that knee surgery that they said he would have to have. So it is a real product, and we get so many testimonials. The hair growth has been amazing, and we hear that from a lot of people as well. I haven't taken a Pepcid since December of 2023 either. My acid reflux cleared right up. You say, it sounds too good to be true. Well, that's the only negative thing I can say about this product is it's so good, and the results I've gotten and many of our audience is it's hard to sometimes convince people that it really is that good because it sounds too good to be true. But it's true. And we have the testimonials to prove it. But not only that, we have the people that subscribe to it, who get it every month like I do. It shows up my door every month. Now, they wouldn't be paying $120 a month for a product that didn't work. And some have quit the product thinking, oh, I'll just save the $120. And their problem comes right back, and they get right back on the product and don't get off it again. The retention on this product is really high because it works. The proof is in that, of course, as well. Check it out. All the details. By the way, they also have over there at MelissaHouseBG.com, they have a new Bella Melt with GLP-1. Bella Melt, which is GLP-1 to help curb your cravings and burn more calories. Melissa lost 3 pounds on this on the first week, and she was only taking one a day. Most people take 3, one before, after each meal. So you can check it all out at MelissaHouseBG.com. Again, another product we use, and with every purchase, you're supporting us, as well as I think your health. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, Annie, introduce our next guest, will you?
Can
Please?
I have a moment before I do that?
You may have a
1
moment.
minute. Okay.
Yeah.
I also want to add that, yes, we are putting our time to join Brannon Howse for this election coverage, which you won't find anywhere else. Most places are just focusing on Mamdani, while Brannon Howse Live is focusing on everybody. We just put our time. Brannon Howse is paying for everything that's happening, the bandwidth, all the wonderful guys in control room, the servers, all of that. And then generously, he also allows, for example, for me to stream this on my platforms. So Another way you can help Brannon Howse allow the rest of us come on air and talk about events that are very important is by donating to his foundation. WVWfoundation.com. It's end of the year. It's November 4th. It is the end of the year. So start your end of the year giving by going to WVWfoundation.com. So especially my audience on my platforms, guys, I couldn't afford to do this on my own. I couldn't. So support the foundation that is supporting Brannon to support the rest of us.
That's very kind of you. Thank you, Annie. I did not ask her to do that. So thank you, Annie.
I did it because that's something, well, you wouldn't look at it for it. Honestly, I'm running this on 6 platforms that belongs to me and benefits you none. So it's the truth. You are very generous when it comes to allowing us to stream, and you give us producers and quality and technology. So it's the minimum I can do for you.
Well, you're very kind. But of course, we get all your great expertise and your Farsi translation and more. It goes both ways, and you do an awful lot to help us, Annie. You know that as well.
I appreciate that.
All right, I want to bring on
joining us.
Hediya, but who's this new guest I've never had?
So let me do the introduction for Hediya as well, so she can say for once on Brannon Howse Live, her name was not butchered
correctly.
Joining us now is Hediya Mir Ahmadi, and also
you make it sound so much harder,
right? Because that's right. Also Shahram Hadian.
You even make Shahram's name sound hard. You even make Shahram's name sound hard.
Well, the correct pronunciation for Shahram's last name is actually Hadian.
Really?
He has made the ultimate sacrifice to make it Hadian. It's Hadian, the correct pronunciation. And I do believe we also have the retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Mike Pierce, the Republican congressional candidate for Illinois District 11.
Mike, welcome aboard.
How you doing? Glad to see you.
Glad to have you with us.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for joining us. I want to go first of all to Hediya, the Lieutenant Governor, Virginia. First time statewide election has been won by an Islamist. Huh? You told me that. You texted me that about an hour and a half ago.
Yes. And so, of course, the Muslim community is going nuts on social media that she's won. And I think it's just, together with Mamdani, we don't know what's happening with Omar Fattah. The numbers are now, we should say, around 285 elected Muslim officials across the United States. Welcome to Americanistan. I mean, it's the takeover of America is unbelievable. And you know what? I'm really focused when I watch all of this. I think to myself, where is the church? So where are the average Christians being, thinking to themselves, oh, wait, we cannot let this happen. And I'm inclined to think that a lot of Christians don't realize the problem.
Can I interrupt you one moment?
Yes.
Because I can answer this. They have hyper Calvinists out there who are telling them interfaith dialogue with jihadis like Yasser Qadi is a good thing. Shahram knows all about this. We have guys like, this little guy right here, Justin Peters, who said this.
To the church.
Let me just back it up.
Islam does not pose a threat to the church. Islam does not pose a threat to the church.
Islam does not pose a threat to the church.
Yes. That was my finishing thought, is that they think we worship the same God. And
he may not think that, but he thinks that, fighting Islam is not the big deal. He goes on to say, well, in fact, let him finish. Here's what he says. I'd love to have you respond to this.
My sheep hear me. My sheep hear my voice. I know my sheep. My sheep know me. I know my sheep. They will not follow another. They will not follow the voice of a stranger. Read John chapter 10, all throughout John chapter 10. There is not going to be, this possibility, this scenario will never happen. There will never be a Christian sitting in any venue, I don't care what it is, in any venue, listening to someone expound upon Islam and say, oh, wow, that is really compelling. I think I'm going to follow Muhammad. That's not going to happen. That's a theological impossibility.
So I guess pointing out the errors of Islam is I'm not even going to set it up. Just respond to that.
Yeah, let me give you two responses. First of all, is I myself was involved in the conversion of dozens of Christians. So some may say, well, they were never Christians anyways. They didn't have the Holy Spirit. They didn't know the shepherd's voice. Granted, that may be correct. No one can snatch anyone from his hand. But the question is, why should we make them vulnerable? So the greatest threat facing our children and our grandchildren is Islam, is that they don't understand the difference. And if we don't educate them, they will fall prey to that kind of deviant ideology. They're falling prey to all kinds of deviant ideology. So if we don't explain it to our children and our grandchildren, they will be at risk. And so when I ask where's the church, I'm saying that they just don't realize either the threat, and they don't realize that it's not the same God. A lot of them don't realize it's not the same God because of all the interfaith activity. And we are losing our country city by city. And people think what happens in England will never happen here. We're such a large country. We're an armed population, but it is the greatest threat facing our nation. I mean, I think these elections just demonstrate that yet again.
Shahram, you want to comment on this?
Well, first of all, I wonder what the several 100,000 Christians that are being persecuted, tortured, raped, and killed every year at the hands of Islam. I wonder what all those people would say to Justin Peters. Secondly, let's not forget Justin Peters in context was saying that to defend James White. He was saying that to defend an interfaith dialogue because he was defending his buddy. He was defending his loyalists in his own, Reformed theology camp, where they were trying to say no Christian can be deceived by Islam. I just covered on my show 2 weeks ago where a young 17-year-old is spending 6 months at a Christian discipleship school called Youth with a Mission in Colorado, where they're bringing in speakers that are telling them that Muslims are believers, just as Christians are, and that Allah, the God of Islam, is the same God as the God of the Bible. So this is not only ignorance upon the part of Justin Peters and these Christians, it is an absolute dereliction of their duty. They are, as Hadia just said, putting the sheep in harm's way. And as we saw tonight, as all your panelists have shown, I believe, Brannon, that this is a further shift to the upper house. The only thing I didn't hear tonight was the discussion of the two houses of Islam, and that this is a further shift to that upper house. We already knew New York City was in the upper house when they declared the Islamic call of prayer throughout the whole city. But now politically, this is very dangerous. And it's very dangerous, by the way, to law enforcement. We are seeing an Islamic army being formed in America through the law enforcement, through the police department turning to Islam.
Mike, I don't know where you come down on all of this because you're with us for the first time, but I'm guessing if you're friends with Annie, you must be on the same page or you wouldn't be here.
I spent 25 years living in Europe, and I've been watching whole communities empty out up in different parts of Germany where the entire downtowns have just basically become, miniature enclaves. Even in a little tiny town my wife's from, I remember taking my daughter to the grocery store, and they had it was probably a jihadist who was hiding out in the little town there for sure. And she said, "Look, Dad, it's a monster," because there's this woman walking around all in black with just little slits on her eyes, and it was kind of awkward because, I have that whole military look. And I can tell you that, I said, "No, honey, it's just a lady." But I mean, they're in every community over there. People are naive if they don't think that something is going on. There's definitely a coordinated effort. There's a lot of synergies at the minimum. So yeah, this is a serious problem that's starting to develop, and it's very sad because people are naive. There's a lot of people who are going to go slam Christians, but they completely ignore the militant wing of that particular group. And then they're wondering when things happen in their communities or, every day. And then now we're waking up 20 some years after 9/11, New York's going to have this Mamdani guy, this anti-Semitic, communist It's beyond belief. You couldn't have scripted this. You couldn't have come up with this if you'd have did say this 24 years ago, 25 years ago, that it said you were on crack.
Yeah, and you're running for, I'm guessing, the U.S. House of Representatives.
I don't know. I hope I wasn't too harsh on that one.
No, you're right. You're right at home here. You're right at home here. Now you're running for the U.S. House. That's right.
Yes, sir.
What your district? The 11th district. Where is that?
Yeah, it's the 11th congressional district in up in Illinois.
Right. What part of Illinois?
Did you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear what part.
The collar counties of Chicago.
Okay, Chicago.
The collar counties, that's Chicago. Yeah, it's around towns around that Naperville, Romeoville, Bolingbrook, all the way. It goes very north. It's a very gerrymandered district. And I think it's hilarious that the people from Texas came to Illinois to get away from gerrymandering. The Illinois, one of the most gerrymandered states in the country.
Yeah, I know Naperville. That's traditionally been a very nice upscale community, Naperville. Yeah, Chicago. Hasn't Chicago been largely taken over by a lot of the Islamists? Didn't we have some of Obama's buddies all parked there? Farrakhan, wasn't he? He's a form of Islam, is he not?
There is a group there. I mean, they have a substantial population there. Of course, they have population from all over the world. And within the district, they're not necessarily a majority minority. They do make up a plurality of the Democrat opponent's voting bloc. So he has to cave to them. And he's also spoken at one of their events, which had been where bin Laden's mentor had spoken, and a number of candidates had pulled out of that because of that, but he didn't. So he's had to acquiesce to their demands, and it's not a really good look. Clearly, I can say, clearly there's a movement. It's not coordinated. It's certainly spontaneous all over the place. I'll tell you that. So Chicago's a big place, a lot of communities, but this is something that, it's a nascent problem. We need to be able to bring people back to the faith and really get them to focus on what it is that makes our country's roots based upon, and what makes America that shining light on the hill.
Yeah. I want to go to you, Hadia, in regards to this week. I haven't talked to you now in a couple of weeks. You text me while I was playing that Tucker Carlson clip where Tucker was saying that, God forbid we have something like Sharia where you can leave the keys of your Lamborghini, the keys in your Lamborghini, and nobody takes them, and all this kind of thing. And then Hamas, I think they're just a political organization. I mean, he's really not that dumb, is he?
It was so shocking to say, like, oh, Riyadh would be so bad where we can leave our keys. But what about the Matawa that come around and hit you with a ruler with this like stick if a piece of your skin is sticking out? I just can't understand why he would say something like that. Has he ever visited Riyadh? I mean, the understanding of what Sharia means, even to, Shahram, of course, mentioned what they're doing in Nigeria and all across the Middle East and North Africa to Christian communities in Muslim lands. I mean, the population of Christian communities in those countries has dwindled down to almost nothing compared to what it used to be. So the fact that he even says, he can't even build a church. So is that what he want? Is that what he wants for America, that you can't even build a church? It's just so ignorant. It's either ignorant or it's purposefully deceitful because somebody's paying him, someone's encouraging him. He likes the popularity. He's like a shock jock kind of attitude that he's taking towards this. I mean, he just basically isolated all of, evangelicals by saying Christian Zionism is heresy. So he's basically kicked us out of his camp too. So I don't actually know what he's going for here.
Andy, you want to jump in?
Can I jump? Thanks for reading my mind. Yes, I do. Number one, what Tucker says is correct. But here's what Tucker is not telling you. In Riyadh, you can leave your key of your Lamborghini and not lock the door and leave. Because if anybody even tries to steal it, they're going to lose an arm and a leg. Yeah. Because in Sharia, if you steal anything, they're going to chop depending on how big or small, from your fingers to your entire arm and the opposite leg. And it applies to every country of Islamic nations, including Iran. Then he claims the no rape. Yes, in Islamic countries, there is no record of rape, because if a woman walks in and reports a rape, she needs to bring 4 male witnesses to that rape. And she fails to do that, she just confessed to adultery. They hang her for being raped. These are the information Tucker either don't know or hides from his audience. No, we don't want the beauty piece of Riyadh knowing they're going to chop our limb off or hang and kill our daughters and sisters and mothers if they ever go tell anyone they were raped. That's number one. The second thing, you can notice I'm constantly looking this way. The exit polls are coming out of New York City. Majority of voters said for them, the factor to vote Mamdani was his stand on Israel.
Ugh.
You want to tell me that we don't have an anti-Semitism issue in America? People didn't care for the social part. They didn't care for the Muslim part. They didn't care if he's a Democrat or Republican. They voted for his stand against Israel. So when I say Keith Ellison can be a 2028 candidate, this is why.
And
because by 2028, the more anti-Semite you are, the more Americans are going to vote for you.
And you're
We're
saying,
going to be minority.
And you're saying Keith Ellison for what? Governor of Minnesota?
President of the United States of America,
you
2028.
You think he's running for president, Keith Ellison, huh?
Look up Keith Ellison. For about a good 6 years, you didn't even hear about Attorney General Keith Ellison.
That's true.
For last about 8 months or so, he's popping up at all the events. He was invited at the DNC Convention 2024. Suddenly, they're bringing him back up on a stage. Why do you think that is? Mamdani wins. Looks like Fatah is shoulder to leg. Literally, we're last minute. It's being pushed over to the popularity on the vote for Fatah. We just had our first woman, Muslim Asian woman, lieutenant governor. Why do you think Keith would just pop up suddenly? Because sadly for them, majority of their popular Muslim candidates were not born in America, so they can't run for president. But Keith can.
Jump in there, Shram.
Well, two things. Let's not forget that Keith Ellison was on the short list to become the Attorney General had Kamala won. So he is, Annie's correct. He is someone they're looking at on the national stage. Remember, he was the first Muslim, along with Andre Carson, to take an oath on the Quran when they were elected to Congress. One quick point about the Minnesota race, because I know you just showed that on the screen there with 98% coming in. That's ranked choice voting. So remember that if nobody gets 50%, in that mayoral race, they're going to go to then they're going to keep going until it goes down to the two candidates, which looks like it's going to be Jacob Frey, the incumbent socialist, or Democrat, and then Omar Fateh, who is, you see those numbers are nobody's over 50%.
And Sharon John, 98% of votes are in. Therefore, that's why I just said they're going to move from popular vote into the next stage, because that's exactly what ended up happening. Rest of votes are not going to give neither one of them 50%.
Correct. Yeah. So again, they'll retabulate, and then it will become a two-person race from there. So, but nevertheless, to the point. Going back to what you said, Brannon, about Tucker Carlson, I agree with Hadiya absolutely that you have two camps, right? You have they're either deceived or they're deceivers. So how much money is Tucker Carlson getting from Qatar? How much money are they getting to sell Islam as a wonderful, peaceful listen, Brannon, you remember this was the talking point of Linda Sarsour. This was the talking point of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is Sharia is good. Sharia is basically internal morality for Muslims. Now they have this talking point in the conservative movement. This is why I've warned Republicans. Do not get confused when Muslims become conservative. Or earlier, you had somebody talking about Hamtramck. That's the confusion. When they go to that upper house, they go from leftist causes liberal causes to then these all of a sudden conservative causes, pro-family, they're pro-marriage, now all of a sudden they're against abortion, they're against LGBT rights. No, what has just happened is the shift to Sharia compliancy. And one more thing that no one's talking about, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm saying that Tucker talks about how wonderful Sharia is. What about the fact that all three of us on this panel, myself, Annie, and Hadiya, should be killed because we're apostates under Sharia? So if Sharia was governing America, all three of us should be, ought be, must be killed because we're all apostates of Islam and have left the religion, Rida. So, you know, I tend to think that, and Trevor said it earlier, not only is Tucker a tool for Russia, he is now being funded to be a tool for a pro-Islam is so wonderful. Don't you think it's so wonderful? Just go to those rich emirate countries and see how nice they are with their Lamborghinis.
And let's not forget. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, you couldn't have summed that up any better, because those of us who've been outside the United States and in many of these countries, and I mean, I'm not from there, so I guess I can say it from my perspective that, you know, you do not want to live in one of those countries if you're an American who's grown up in Western civilization and has all of the freedoms that we have. The people out there who are most damning of the United States and our people and our ways are the ones who will actually be the first ones that they would be most affected if they were to have something like a Sharia to take place and work its way into our main line of our society. So it's amazing to me that people are voting for this stuff and they're bringing them in and they're opening the door and using them as a platform. It's well known.
Yes, and I'm so sorry, Brannon. I didn't know it's going to happen where, you know, the five of us are going to be on the same panel. And I really want to emphasize, I know we touched on it at the beginning of your coverage, but if you don't mind, I want to bring up the 46th year since November 4th of 1979 to take, you know, Sharam is an Iranian American, Hadiya Iranian American. Mike is we talked about it with Mike earlier on my show, but guys, Hadiya, John, if you want to go first, ladies first, but today is 46 years since America was literally shaken to their core in the hands of the newly mullahs regime of Iran, when they watched as their citizens, as their fellow Americans were, you know, handcuffed, blindfolded, dragged on the streets of Tehran while being, you know, chanted death to America. And Iran is running the region. Mullahs are running the region. They are stronger and more funded than they were 46 years ago. And from what I recall, though I wasn't even born then, they never faced consequences. Hadiya, John?
Well, I mean, from my professional experience, when I was in DC, Iran was the untouchable subject. So whether it was in the Bush era or Obama, you never could talk about regime change in Iran. Nobody was ever willing to touch it. And it always surprised me that nobody was willing to take that on. And it was, to this day, actually, I don't understand it, because even with the fight in Israel, everything is about the Iran-backed Hamas, Iran-backed this. And nobody wants to point out the Sunni Arab connection, which is has a long history. I mean, they're the ones that Saudi had the hijackers, the Wahhabism that's coming out of Saudi Arabia is what flooded America and changed the character and nature of what Islam is taught in the United States and around Europe. It's always Iran that's to blame, and yet we do nothing about it. And so frankly, I can't really understand. And it's something I kind of link with this Tucker issue, because Tucker, if you've heard him speak over the years, he's not really motivated by money. So unless it's billions of dollars, I really don't see that even being his motivation. I think it's like we were saying with the Mamdani race, I think it's anti-Semitism. I think that the right is becoming extremely virulently anti-Semitic. And I think that's what's pushing a lot of this. It's not related to Iran, but I'm just connecting the dots of things I just don't really understand. And Iran being untouchable in terms of regime change. I mean, we even killed Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein before we were willing to touch Iran. which was absurd to me. Absolutely absurd.
I would love for anyone in this panel who can name one benefit we took from killing Saddam Hussein. One.
Right.
I don't think anybody can think of one. None.
None.
And it's a very complicated subject. The Iranian regime and what they did 46 years ago. I would just say that if you take a look at where they are right now and where we are today, they've been the thorn in the side. The only reason they would have kept them around that I can possibly think of is because they want to use them as a foil against perhaps, to have somebody additional so they don't have too many underpowered countries around Russia. But we've been acquiescing to them because of impotent leadership. Let's face it, call it what it is. It's impotent leadership at that time and through many, many administrations afterwards. And whenever somebody would try to make a change, they would the next administration would come in and they would reverse course. And that's exactly what happened when you had Obama sent the money after a start of a regime, and then during Biden's thing, he just opened up the floodgates, and then it was only because of Trump's strong sanctions against the Iranians that we are starting to bring them to the table. So we need to have strong leadership when we deal with people like this regime, and we should have put it out 40 years ago. We'd be all better off.
Well, isn't the goal? Don't we have some kind of plan from the UN? I'll have to find it. A Northern Eurasia 2030 to break up Russia. I mean, isn't this their goal? Isn't this why NATO and so many of them are on board? They want to break up Russia.
Can we please just stop breaking up countries?
Exactly.
It would stop. But look,
Russia's going to break itself up because they've spent so much of their arms and their resources in the Ukraine fight that they've been in, and they wasted themselves away in Afghanistan and broke up the Soviet Union. And this is going to break up Russia in that same way because they're bringing people from its outer distant areas, and people are getting really upset. They don't have the numbers in the population to maintain such a large landmass. And so it could be a part of a greater strategy.
Let's bring in, if we can, real quick, Alex Newman, who joins us by phone. I think he just landed. Alex, I want to show you, well, I don't know if you can see it because you're on by phone, but take a look at the New York Post. Here is the New York Post for tomorrow morning. On your marks, M-A-R-X, get set, Zoe, Socialist Mamdani wins race for mayor, the Red Apple. That's the New York Post tonight, edition for in the morning. What's your response? They actually have him holding a hammer and a sickle. Again, it's interesting that nobody wants to really talk about his Islamic side. What do you make of this tonight, Alex?
Well, it's the culmination of everything that we have been warning about for so many years, you and me, Brannon, and many of the people on this panel. The Red-Green Alliance is here, and it's going to get stronger. I think this is a very, very bad omen for where our country is headed. We have seen this all along. Now people are, regular people who pay attention to the fake media are finally starting to notice that this is the direction things are going. But if you want to see what the future looks like, I encourage people to look at Western Europe and then eventually look at the Middle East, look at countries like Lebanon, because that's the direction we're going if we don't get a handle on this very, very quickly. You've got the red part of the alliance, the Marxist socialist side, the green, and of course I add in the blue, the globalist side. And as Rich Higgins pointed out during the first Trump administration when he was on the National Security Council, this alliance is working to destroy the United States of America, not just as a nation, but as an ideal. And I think what just happened in New York City, what's happening right now in Minneapolis, the new lieutenant governor of Virginia, this is a harbinger of much, much more to come. And at this point, unless we take some very drastic actions, I think it's going to be just the beginning of an acceleration of this process, which, of course, I think ought to trouble us all and ought to encourage everybody to get involved.
What do you make of we mentioned Russia. What do you make of this plan that's being batted around out there by some of these globalists to bring down Putin, bring regime change, and then divide up Russia? I mean, that's something Leo Holman and I have been talking about. It's got a lot of minerals, got a lot of things going for it. But I think also the desire to go into a new world order and do away with people that are so strong on their own nation and their own culture and their own history. I don't know if Putin wants to play along with them as much. What do you think?
Well, I first looked in detail at Putin in 2014 to try to figure out who he was and what he was about. And my conclusion from 2014, I did a cover story in the New American Magazine about this. And what I found was massive amounts of evidence that Putin is deeply connected with the globalist establishment in this push for a new world order. They need to prop up bad guys. They understand that war is one of the fastest tools they can use as a catalyst to accelerate the process of globalism. And I think Putin is actually playing his role very well. He's very busily building his Eurasian Union. He's a perfect pretext for the Europeans to continue giving more and more power to the European Union. This fiasco in Ukraine may well turn into a flashpoint that turns into another global war. And so when you look at Putin's relationship with Henry Kissinger, when you look at his ties to the World Economic Forum, when you look at his background with the KGB, I believe Putin is actually very sympathetic to the agenda of the globalists. Now, like the mafia, they all want to, of course, be at the top of the pile, and I don't know if Putin is willing to play second fiddle, and I think the same is true with Xi Jinping. But I think very much like Christians, we're all, generally speaking, moving in the same direction. We're all concerned about the Great Commission. We all want to disciple the nations and make disciples and share the truth. I can go into a church in any country in the world, and even though I've never met these people, even though I sometimes don't even speak the same language as them, I have kind of a camaraderie with them. I think the same is true with the evildoers that we're dealing with. They don't even necessarily have to get together in a smoky room and plot on what they're doing. So I see Putin very much as a key player in the New World Order. I think right now he's dutifully fulfilling his role as a villain. And I know for people who haven't looked at the evidence, that probably sounds strange. But again, I think if you look at the evidence, if you look at his relationship with Henry Kissinger, if you look at the things that he has said publicly over the years about regional integration, he's been fully compliant with the climate scam, so many critical parts of this New World Order agenda. And, every once in a while he says something against the LGBT agenda. And so Christians in America suddenly think he's a good, decent Christian trying to save Western civilization. But I think when you look at the evidence objectively, to me, it seems like he is very much on board with the plan.
You live in Florida. You might find it interesting. Mike Benz, just 16 minutes ago, tweeted this. I'm still sticking to my theory that Zohran Mamdani's biggest backers were Republican real estate investors in Palm Beach and Miami. Both markets were slightly down this year. So if there's a sudden 5% increase in 1 year's time, I will consider that validation of the hypothesis. I do have a son-in-law in real estate in Florida, and he is saying the market is popping. It has been for the last couple of weeks as it became evident Mamdani was going to win. So you're going to have a lot of New Yorkers flooding to Florida. I guess you better hope they don't New York your Florida, right?
Oh, we're all prepared. We've got our bumper stickers. We've got our shirts. Don't New York my Florida. And it's a well-known phenomenon. Thankfully, a lot of the New Yorkers that are coming down are more conservative, more patriotic. And so we're grateful for them. But, the liberals who ruined New York, they can stay there, please.
Absolutely. Okay, closing comment. What do you think this means for 2026? Polymarket's saying tonight this is a 70% chance now that Dems take the House. What do the Republicans need to do between now and next year, a year from tonight?
I've been saying for a long time, I think there's a very good chance that the Democrats will take the House in the midterms, and that will bring Trump's agenda to a screeching halt. I think if the Republicans want to get serious about winning, they're going to have to do the things that the voters are asking for and have been asking for, and that a lot of which Trump has been trying to do. We've got to get serious about cracking down on the voter fraud. We've got to get serious on making sure illegal immigrants are being deported and are not voting in our elections. And, other than Trump, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of seriousness about this in Congress, that's for sure. And I really think until we can have an honest, fair election, the Democrats are going to continue to be far more overrepresented in Congress than they would be if we had an honest, actual election.
LibertySentinel.org, LibertySentinel.org. Alex Newman checking in, just landing. Alex, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's go back to our panel here as we get ready to wrap. Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead, Annie.
here's another bad news. California just passed Prop 50, redistricting.
Oh,
it just
goodness.
passed. Yes.
We lobbied so hard for no on 50.
So that means they're going to redistrict and maybe pick up 10 seats. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, my local town will be toast because we are heavily Republican. We are the most Republican county in the state, and they're redistricting us. So we will lose that.
Well, you're always welcome here in Tennessee.
I know.
Or here in Ohio.
Yeah, at some point.
Illinois.
Or Illinois.
Eastern. Come to Eastern, though, idiot.
It seems that no
sorry,
places.
Brandon.
Thanks a lot. What's wrong with West Tennessee? I mean, come on.
Sorry, Brandon.
I
Come
know
on,
that. I know
Eastern.
you guys want to chop Memphis right off and push us off into the river. It's getting
Got
better
the
here.
Smoky Mountains.
It is prettier where you're at, but it's getting a lot better here. I've been back here 21 years. Let me tell you something. You can't drive out without seeing the state troopers. We would maybe see one state trooper a year. Maybe one state trooper a year in the area. I mean, if you got out on the interstate going on 40, but now Logan's saying you see 3 or 4 every day on the way to work. I mean, every time I go out now, I see a state trooper. Sometimes 3 or 4, as Logan's saying. So the governor and Trump are cracking down on crime and Memphis has got a lot of potential, but it is not as pretty as your Smoky Mountains there. That's for sure. Okay, as we get ready to wrap here tonight, more thoughts. I mean, did you think, Shahram, that here we are now with President Trump? What are we, 10 months in? Is it 10 months since he came into office? We got elected a year ago, but 10 months since he was sworn in. Did you not think that he and the GOP would take full advantage of this and have more to show? I mean, I appreciate a lot of things he's done, don't get me wrong. And I sure am thankful for him over what Kamala would have done in this country. But, Ann, I was really hoping they would have done a lot more by now. Not to mention, I don't want to hear about Qatar coming and building in a facility in Idaho and cutting deals with Qatar. And now we're going to put together a Gaza international group that's going to have the United Nations heavily involved, for Pete's sake. I mean, they were going to put Turkey, but Israel said no. But you're going to put together some kind of international board to oversee Gaza that includes the United Nations, which we know is dominated by the Islamists and the Marxists. And I read an article today, it's going to be a reformed PLO. That's like crazy talk. Yeah. A reformed PLO.
No reform.
Can you respond to all this?
Yeah, well, first of all, there's no such thing as a reformed PLO. There's just like you can't reform Hamas. You can't reform Islam. It is a spirit that is against God. It is against Christianity. It is against every Western society and every Western freedom. Am I surprised? Do I think that they would have done more? Yes. They're
going to put Turkey, but Israel said no. Sorry, that's my own show playing back a few seconds later as I hit a page. Sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
I think we were hopeful that more would have been done. But then we saw some very concerning things that you just mentioned. When he came back from his trip to the Middle East with $3 trillion or more in investments from all of these Arab Muslim countries, that was disheartening. When we saw the people that he's propping, Steve Witkoff, he put his son Jared Kushner, he's got Tiffany Trump, the father-in-law. Boulos is the U.S. envoy. He's got Amir Ghalib, who is the mayor of Hamtramck, touted to be the ambassador to Kuwait. When you're making those decisions, when you're hosting people at the White House for Ramadan, those are all things that were disappointing. And also, he is way more looking like a globalist than an America First president. And that is very concerning in how rapidly we move towards the globalist beast system that the Bible has prophesied. And one final thing from my point of view, which was brought up earlier, I think Hedia brought this up, is that None of this makes sense. We don't understand how the city of New York, that had experienced 9/11, would ever elect a Marxist Muslim mayor. But we have to understand that we are in these last days, and the Bible has said evil waxes greater. The hatred of the Jews. Revelation 12 talks about, Brannon, the dragon that pursues the woman, that's Israel. Zechariah chapter 12, the world will lust after Jerusalem, after Israel. So all of this, in one sense, is playing as the Bible has predicted. I'm not saying we're rejoicing in it or celebrate it, but we have to understand America is becoming less and less significant. We are coming up to 250 years. Most empires collapse from within, or enemies come in. And you and I have talked about this many times. I still believe that Islam is part of the judgment on God on this nation. God has allowed these enemies within, and the only thing that can turn this back, or at least push it and delay things, is our repentance. And again, was mentioned earlier, the people of God. It is up to us to pray, intercede, act, stand. I will never be silent. I know nobody in this panel will ever stop warning this nation about what just happened to a greater extent tonight and what is our future. We will not stop proclaiming that, and we will not stop proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ.
Look at this, Leo, amen to that. Leo Terrell, 30% of Jewish Americans voted for Mamdani. Now, is that number true? Is anyone else hearing this?
I don't see that exact number, but if I'm correct, Bronx in New York City is one of the highly Jewish populated, and he took 84% of votes there. So I would say some Jews did vote for him. I don't know about 30%, but definitely some did.
And now in Minneapolis, there's got to be a runoff. That's what I'm understanding, right?
Yes. Yes.
And of course,
that's exactly.
If that 13% that was going to Davis, I don't know I don't know where those people are prone to go, but there's only 10.
Well, it's actually Brannon, 2 candidates, because there's 15 candidates on the ballot.
Right.
It's a crazy ballot, and it's actually about 24% between Davis and the guy below that, Jazz Hampton. Yeah, there you go. So now the problem is with ranked choicing, right? Is we don't know what the second choice, third choice was. So now that will be a runoff, between Frey and Omar Fateh.
But I don't know enough about these other people to know where these other votes, this 10%, this 13% are prone to going now. Is anyone else? I don't know I don't know their politics.
I not from politics point of view, from
what do you think
my experience with life, those people will not vote for who's already in the office. If they wanted him to stay, they would have just already voted for him. Normally, they tend to go to the new guy if they're forced to pick between the new guy and the old guy. The same thing I said about Silva stepping down or not. There was no guarantee his vote would go to Como, because those who didn't want Como back split their votes between Mamdani and Silva. The same thing is applying to Fateh and Davis. Those votes are the people who did not want Frey, is that how we say his name, to stay for a third term. Sadly, looks like they normally end up voting for the other new guy rather than the existing person.
Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah. Look at the Chicago election about a year ago. You're going to see what's going to happen. Brandon Johnson did not garner the most votes in that previous runoff that they had. There's a Chicago election against Mayor Lightfoot, and they had another person who got a lot, and she didn't get the nomination. And so what they did was people flocked to their own demographic grouping, if you will. And then they ended up with Brandon Johnson, not because he got more votes than the other guy in the initial wave. So he actually won that, and it was like a multi-candidate runoff. So you're going to see the same thing here. I predict that Jacob Frey might actually get burned on this.
Give your website, Mike.
Yeah, sure. It's vote Pierce 4, the number 4, Congress.com. That's vote Pierce 4 Congress.com. and Facebook is LTC-RET Michael Pierce for Congress.
Thank you, Mike, for being with us tonight.
You know, it's a shame that we're living in such times where people have to take such extreme positions. But it's just, it's a sad sign of the times, and I appreciate what the pastor's saying, because we need to be watchful more than ever.
Thank you, Mike, for being with us. Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Can I add a point of optimism for your audience? Because for the most part, they're believing Christians. And just like Sharon said, that this is all biblically lining up, I think it's really important to give hope. And the hope is that we follow the Great Commission and that we educate and empower the church to save as many people as possible. So, you know, look up as your redemption draw nears, the Lord will return. And until that fullness of the Gentiles is reached, our job is to go and make disciples and tell people about Christ and to call people to the kingdom. So as depressing as the news may be, there are still souls to win.
Amen.
Whether they're Muslims or atheists or whatever they may be, we can never give up hope on that Great Commission.
Amen.
And we shouldn't give up on the American dream either. I just want to say that. Let's not give up on the American dream.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, praise God, we have it.
If I could be the Debbie Downer here, not related to socialist nor Muslim, but we just got the result for Cincinnati mayor. We had an election going on. And to my absolute shock, the Democrat Indian mayor won. And his entire platform was, one, let's stop sending police officers to 911 calls. We just need to send someone to deal with mental health issues.
And was his opponent J.D. Vance's brother?
No.
Yes.
Cincinnati mayor?
I think his opponent was J.D. Vance's brother.
Was it?
Wow.
I did not know that. I know I was keeping an eye on him. Very sure he wouldn't win. But the reason I'm bringing this up, one, I might
Corey
consider
Bowman is what
moving.
Logan's telling me. His name is Corey Bowman. That's Vance's brother.
Yeah, Brannon, that's what it's saying. You're right.
Is
J.D.
that-
Vance's half-brother suffers humiliating loss in mayoral race
In Cincinnati.
in Cincinnati. Yeah, you're
But
right.
I want to bring our attention to, number one, if they stop responding to 911 call, you know my number one, if I ever make that call. So I might consider that Tennessee offer, Brannon.
We need another studio over here, Brannon. You gotta get a secondary studio.
It sounds like it.
But I want to bring this. So just bear with me. I'm going to do this as fast as I can, as less confusing as possible. One thing we did not bring up because so much was going on. We talked about Nigeria and Syria, but remember, Sudan is bleeding alone. And what's happening in Sudan is not Muslims versus non-Muslims. It is Arab Muslims versus non-Arabs. And I covered that on my Substack. Now look at the Democrat guy who just won the mayor race in my city, Cincinnati. He is another Asian, Indian immigration family members. My fellow Americans, you're not racist if you do not vote for non-Americans. I give you that right as an Iranian American. Stop voting for Asians because you want to feel like you are not racist. Stop feeling guilty, punishing yourself, voting for people that regardless of their background, their system and culture cannot coexist. They come here and they want to do what is happening over there. So
Is Ramaswamy's election a year from now?
Yes.
Okay, so he still has, boy, he really announced early, about a year and a half early. Good.
Yes.
Grief. Yep. Thank you.
Well,
Mike,
but that's the thing. With the pattern we're going, he's going to win too because he's also from over there.
Mike?
Should I run Asians or win Asians?
Were you going to say something, Mike?
There are a lot of there's a lot of Indian community in Naperville and the Chicago area in general, and of course there's one of the congressmen is actually running for Secretary of State on the Dem side, or rather for Senate on the Dem side to take Dick Durbin's place, and it seems that there could be a lot of community support that will come out for them. They do tend to support each other. And that does not necessarily it's going to turn into the same thing next year, because I think that Vivek Ramaswamy, he is one of their community. I think that you'll probably see them they're more concerned about themselves than about the party ideologies aligned. So I would not take this as something that would be a bellwether for whether Vivek Ramaswamy does well in Ohio next year. I think he will do well, and I think that this is only because of the local politics of that. But they'll come together and they'll support him next year. I would give you an 80% chance of that.
And
unfortunately, they will. Yes,
and the Indians are taking a lot of jobs here in Collierville. They're taking a lot of jobs. We got an Indian for CEO now of FedEx. There's just a big write-up about all the jobs they're taking. They're hiring in Indian managers who only hire their own or contract with companies out of India. So unfortunately, it's a jobs issue too. Look at this before we go tonight, guys. Breaking. Officials from New York City Board of Elections have announced that more than 2 million votes have been recorded, marking the first time this milestone has been reached since 1969.
Wow.
So there was a lot of enthusiasm about this election.
And I believe 1.02 million went to Mamdani.
1.0, latest number is 1.033.
Okay, I was a little short there, but yes.
50.41%, yeah. And I mean, there's over 1 million Muslims in New York City, Brannon, so obviously not all of them are voting age, but that's, that's the one thing we have to also discuss is that they are their own voting bloc as well. So they have the red, they have the left, they have those that help them get there, but they're very soon becoming their own voting bloc. And then keep an eye on Texas, guys, because Texas, you have Houston is number 2 in Muslim population, Dallas is number 4 in Muslim population. So you're going to see, not just in the local races, as with Omar Amir there in Richardson, but also potentially in statewide races. Keep an eye on Texas next year.
And if the Trump administration isn't able to pull this together with the help of Congress, I think this is going to allow the slip in of DeSantis to be on to get a good run for president. I don't think we should count JD Vance as the automatic heir apparent.
Yeah.
I really don't. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Shahram is tilministry.com, tilministry.com. Mike already gave out his website, but it's kind of complicated. So give it again, Mike.
Sure. Yeah.
There it is. Vote Pierce 4. There it is.
Yep. VotePierce4Congress.com.
Excellent.
Appreciate any help and support. You guys are great.
Thank you, Mike. Glad you were here with us tonight. Annie, thank you for helping produce tonight's show and get all these guests rounded up with Logan. Her website is lutfstudio.com. Get some great Christmas gifts and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Brannon.
Hadia.
And me.
What's your website? Resurrectministry.com, right?
Resurrectministry.com. Yes, you can find all my social media. Follow me on Instagram. It's my name, Hadia Miramati, and all of my YouTube channels and social media is on that website. And I encourage people to write me.
Excellent. Excellent.
Mir Ahmadi. We're going to get Brannon to say it right. Mir Ahmadi.
Well, we got to get Hadia to say it right first.
That's right. That's so true. Oh, man. Miramati. Right?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Very emphasis of H there.
You're going to be happy with that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that one. Okay. Totally.
Sounds good. All right.
Sharon, now you have to say yours correctly, just to be fair.
Well, hey, listen, if they're even close, Sharom, I mean, I've gotten so many.
No, your last
things.
name.
Oh, my last name. It is Hadian. She's correct. But it's hard for Americans. I don't know why. So it just became Haiti, and years ago I gave up. But it is technically Hadian.
Mike, I think you have the best last name on the panel, to be honest with you.
I like Mike.
Okay, and Mike is a very easy name as well. Thank you to all of you guys. Appreciate you tonight. As we get ready to sign off, clearly it is going to be a very busy 2026 for us, folks. We have a lot of worldview work to do, and that is what we do here. WorldViewTube, explaining the worldviews that are vying for our hearts and minds. You're at the foundation of your worldview. Of course, you know above that is your values, and then you have your conduct. At the base is your worldview. So think of a triangle. At the base, put worldview, then values, then conduct. And we have to explain to people what these dominant worldviews are. Obviously, Christianity, obviously, secular humanism, cosmic humanism, or New Age, postmodernism, communism, and of course, Islam. But many of those worldviews are merging together today. Now, of course, we have Chrislam. Many people think they can merge Islam and Christianity. They've merged the New Age movement with Christianity for a new kind of spirituality, a false dominant growing church. We have, of course, the mixture of so-called Christianity with Marxism, traditionally known as liberation theology. These worldviews are running rampant and they are colliding. They are synthesizing together. Islam, however, has not been taken very seriously by the church in America for the reasons we've mentioned. And this is, of course, because many pastors, so-called today, don't talk about the worldview war. They don't break them down, and they're certainly not explaining to their church the things about Islam. Many of your politicians aren't either. We noted tonight that we keep hearing about Mamdani, the Marxist. Even the cover of tomorrow morning, the New York Post mentioned the red apple, had him holding a hammer and a sickle. Where is the mention of his being, well, an Islamist? We have a lot of work to do to explain to people what Islam is really all about. And of course, we'll be here taking on all the other worldviews as well. We hardly stopped tonight to promote product. We promoted two. But if you appreciate what we're doing, the biggest way you can support us, folks, is really through our foundation. We have to have a huge November and December to set our budgets for 2026. A huge percentage of giving for the foundation, which helps to underwrite and push out programming for free, whereas we could put it all behind a paywall. Foundation comes along, helps us push out a lot of programming for education and ministry work. So if you appreciate that, we need your support. Please consider us in your end of the year giving. WorldViewFoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. WorldViewFoundation.com. If you'd like to learn more about Islam, about Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, CAIR, yesterday, another book of mine came out. It was based on my 2019 series that was 11 hours long. I've produced it into a book. You don't have to buy it. If you're a Vault member, it's automatically a part of your membership. WorldViewTube.com/vault, along with 36 years of, well, radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and more. If you'd like to buy the book, however, as a download, you could do it. It's called October 7th Comes to America, subtitled about Hamas's network in the U.S. You can buy it as a download right now for $7.99, I think it is, at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. But far better than that, just go to the vault. Just go to the vault and join the vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. You'll get the book and you'll get all kinds of other books of mine there as ebooks. And as I said, radio shows, TV shows, documentaries, and so much more. My next book, which is based on my documentary Siege, will be out here in another few weeks. We've put that into a book format. And then Sabotage, then my book on my documentary Brainwashed America. Been working on these for a long time. Finally decided, guys, we got to get this done. And they've been helping us to get them edited, Jill, my editor, and formatted. We're glad the book on Hamas is out. We need it now more than ever. I hope you'll check it out. Inside the U.S. network of Hamas, October 7th comes to America. It's there in the vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Just go to the library, as Logan is showing you, top of the page, then go to ebooks, and then you'll see it all there. So again, just join the vault. $7.99 a month. You go and log in at the top right corner, the person icon says, his says log in because he's logged in, but it'll say log in. And you log in with your email address. And then if you do that, you go to library, then you go down to ebooks, click on that. It'll bring up all my ebooks and you can find them there. It goes back to my very first book in 1990 on the New Age movement. There it is right there. So please, $7.99 a month. Is that, I mean, that's not a big purchase price, is it? $7.99 a month. And guess what? We're going to be releasing very soon. We're not done yet with it yet, but we will soon be releasing a very powerful Bible and worldview software. It's going to blow your mind that will search automatically, isolated and quarantined our entire database. Not going to be bringing up any woke garbage. It's an isolated, only on our servers, powerful search engine that will allow you to do intense Bible study and pull up video clips. Some clips, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, pulling it right out of an hour. It knows what's in there because it's spent a year transcribing everything I've done over the last 36 years. And so you'll be able to go there and do amazing Bible study and worldview training. And the price of that is not going up. $7.99 a month is still what it'll be. So will you join, please? WorldViewTube.com/vault. All right, let's call it a night, boys. That's our broadcast. Our special coverage here as we go off the air at exactly 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern Standard. Thanks to you for being here and for supporting us and our panel. And again, we'll pick it back up tomorrow as we keep waging this, what is clearly a worldview war. Your worldview matters. And we're seeing that tonight, aren't we? With these elections going to, well, some for the first time, statewide election won by an Islamist, lieutenant governor in Virginia, and now the largest mayor in America, a Marxist and Islamist. Yeah, your worldview does matter, and we'll be back on it tomorrow. So then, I'm Brannon Howse. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your support. May God save America. Take care.
You're watching WorldViewTube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.